We are set to do some very interesting conversations and talking on what matters to you. My name is Kofi Bartels. You're welcome. Tonight, I'm not in the studio alone. I have the pleasure of having three very interesting gentlemen with us in the studio. You would like to hear from them. You would like to talk to them. You definitely would like to ask them questions. And you've been hearing the announcements on the radio all day. Lagos Talks 91.3 has partnered with Is Enough Enough, a leading civil society organization in Nigeria, to bring to you what we call the Eti-Osa Legislative Dialogue. The Eti-Osa Legislative Dialogue. I have in the studio some wonderful individuals I will be introducing to you in a matter of seconds. But I'm sure you'll agree with me that Eti-Osa is perhaps the wealthiest and most advanced governance division in Nigeria. You'll agree with me that Eti-Osa is perhaps the wealthiest and most advanced governorship or governance division in Nigeria. It hosts places like Ikoyi, Victoria Island, and Lekki, to mention but a few. Hence its importance to a number of aspects of life in Lagos State, Nigeria, and indeed the African continent. Well, tonight on the latest edition, Lagos Talks 91.3 and EIE Nigeria bring you this wonderful dialogue featuring three candidates for the Eti-Osa Federal Constituency seat in the forthcoming House of Representatives elections. They're right here in the studio. You have your phone. Please don't waste this opportunity. Be a part of the conversation. You can call. You can send in your messages via WhatsApp. You can tweet at us at Lagos Talks 913. You can also call via WhatsApp as well, and we'll be very glad to hear from you. All right. I'd like to, first of all, before I read their profiles, introduce the gentlemen. We have Ibrahim Obanikoro, who is the candidate for that House of Representatives seat for the All Progressives Congress. We have Olubankole Wellington, aka Banky W, of the People's Democratic Party. And we have Olufemi Oladehin of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. Right, he's dressed like an African. They always wear African attire. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the latest edition on Lagos Talks 91.3.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Lagos.
Thank you.
All right. So they know that indeed the gentlemen are here. It's not always so easy to get candidates in one room to talk about, Nigeria, to talk about how to improve the country and to talk about how to improve their community. This is not a debate. It's not a debate, but it's a dialogue. It's a conversation. It's a town hall for the constituents to be able to converse and have a conversation with their leaders. You're all stakeholders in Eti-Osa, and that's why I'm sure you all want to contribute to society by representing your people in the House of Representatives. All right, I'll start with Femi Oladehin, who is representing the ADC, and of course is seeking your votes to go to Abuja, to the Green Chamber, Nigeria's parliament, to represent you for 4 years. Okay, so who is he? Femi has over 22 years of accounting, financial advisory and corporate finance, principal investment and project finance experience in the international and West African markets. He's managed the execution of over $1 billion of energy transactions, or $1 billion in energy transactions, including a $276 million sale of a downstream marketing business, $150 million transportation business, as well as a $100 million real estate development. Now, his previous experiences include managing director, CEO of BGL's investment banking group. Was that in Nigeria? Okay. Investment banker at Rand Merchant Bank, and head and director with Stanbic Bank's Project and Structured Finance Group. Femi holds an MBA from the University of Benin, Nigeria, and is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. Femi Oladehin, thank you very much for your time.
Good evening. Hi.
All right. Okay. Let's move to our next guest. You all know him. You all know him. And you've all known him. He's lived in your cars, in your ears for several years now. I remember one of the CDs in one of my first cars was his CD. Very, very interesting CD, music. I played it till I sold the car. But I was really sad that when I sold the car, I didn't take it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, Olubankole Wellington is affectionately called Banky W by his stage name, his artistic name, and he is credited in film as Banky Wellington. He's a Nigerian creative. He's a singer, rapper, actor, entrepreneur, and politician. Banky W has paved the way for many in Nigeria's entertainment industry. And I forgot to add, I think this page needs to be updated. He's a pastor. Yes. We all watch him on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And he tells us to give a life to Christ. Olubankole Wellington was born in the United States on the 27th of March to Nigerian parents. And please, if I miss anything, please don't be offended. You can correct me. He began singing at a very young age in his church choir. He schooled in Lagos, so he's a Lagos boy for his primary and secondary education, and returned to further his tertiary education in the United States on a scholarship. He started the record label Empire Mates Entertainment, EME, in 2002 while studying, and also worked at Global Spec. In 2009, he left the US for Nigeria and established his record label in Lagos by signing artists like Niola, Shay D, Scales, and Wizkid to the label. He released a debut studio album, Back in the Building, in 2005. His debut single, Ebutemeta, was Ebutemeta. He wrote the first theme song for a very popular mobile phone company, which you all know. He's recorded a lot of landmarks in Nigeria's entertainment industry. The day after Valentine's Day of 2013, Wellington launched his new album R&B W.
You can skip ahead if you read the whole thing.
No. Please allow me.
You, sir.
Yes, but Banky has also blazed the trail as far as the movie industry is concerned, and I think he's one of those credited with those who've turned the page in Nollywood.
We thank God.
With the movie Wedding Party. Banky says I should cut it short, and I will. Your wish is my command. Okay, let's go on to the last but definitely not the least of our guests right here in the studio. He is a current member of the Federal House of Representatives, the House of Representatives. I'm talking about Honorable Ibrahim Obanikoro. He's
Representative Ibrahim Babajide.
Oh, representatives. Now
I think they changed
Thank
it.
you.
They changed it.
Just changed it.
Oh wow. My apologies.
No.
We learn every day.
No offense taken.
All right. So, Representative Ibrahim Babajide Obanikoro, affectionately called IBO, was born to a noble birth to the family of Senator Musiliu Olatunde and Alhaja Amorfat Obanikoro of Isaleko, a part of Lagos State in the early 80s. He attended the prestigious King's College, Lagos, and from there proceeded to St. Cloud University, Minnesota, USA, where he bagged a Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science. He also has a master's degree in Public Administration from Pace University, USA. As a student in the United States of America, IBO acquired a wealth of experience in criminal justice administration. He did his internship at the courthouse in St. Cloud University, Minnesota, USA. He also interned as Assistant Liaison Officer at Brooklyn Borough District under the Commissioner Turner. He had a stint at Pace University, New York as a graduate assistant. After the outstanding completion of his education in the United States of America and with the love of his country at heart, IBO returned to Nigeria to serve his fatherland. He did his compulsory National Youth Service Corps with a bank. I will name that bank. Well, Zenith Bank PLC. And for his meritorious service with the bank, he was retained and he rose to the position of executive assistant. And he's progressed. He joined the services of several companies. He became executive director. He has a passion for agriculture and business. And it drove him to establish Ejide Farms and Ilori Farmhouse. So you're a farmer?
Yes, I am.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
How's the farm doing?
Doing okay.
Fantastic. It's not usual to see young people in farming.
Been farming since '06.
Interesting. All right. His foray, well, in his farm, he has productions like tilapia fish, cows, and rams. His foray into politics started in 2003 when he was in school, and he's done it all the way to now becoming a representative at the House of Reps. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Apologies for the longer intro, but I just had to do that. I'm going to start off with, like I said, it's a dialogue. We will talk about Eti-Osa, which, do you agree that Eti-Osa is that important in the scheme of things as far as Nigeria is concerned, and even Africa? I'll start with the candidate of the African Democratic Congress.
Okay, so thanks. Excuse me, and good evening, Lagos. Look, Eti-Osa is indeed the economic center of Nigeria. If you understand the geography of Eti-Osa, Eti-Osa starts from Obalende thereabout and goes all the way to Shangotedo. Now, when you look at the sheer economic power, you've got financial sector. Financial center is in Eti-Osa. The entertainment centers, excuse me, are in Eti-Osa, and to a large extent, probably the way I describe Eti-Osa is it's a melting point or a melting pot of probably the wealthiest economic group in Nigeria that live within Eti-Osa. So that in itself tells you that in terms of government presence, just because of the sheer contribution of Eti-Osa to the country's GDP or Lagos State's revenue, and all of that, it should actually be front and center of government interventions. So without a doubt, this is the most important constituency, and of course we live there. So even if it wasn't the largest, the fact that we live there and we make our livelihoods from there, it even becomes even more important. So yes, I agree with you that Eti-Osa is systemically important to Nigeria. It's the centerpiece of our economic activities, and it should get the right attention from both the state and the federal government.
Right. Honorable Obanikoro, what does Eti-Osa mean to you? What do you think when you hear anyone say Eti-Osa is a melting pot or melting pot of the wealthiest nation in Nigeria? Is it that important, and how do you view Eti-Osa?
Just as Pastor Femi has narrated, Eti-Osa is arguably one of the most important local governments that you have in Nigeria. And you have a mixture of the wealthy and the middle class and, the masses here in Eti-Osa. So Eti-Osa is unique to that extent as well. It's probably the only local government that has the three classes in it. Every other local government has one or two of the classes. So yes, we are indeed extremely important, and we are the fastest growing hub in West African region in terms of real estate, in terms of population, and like he said, entertainment. The home of entertainment in Nigeria is right here in Eti-Osa.
Right. Olubankole Wellington, aka Banky W. What does Eti-Osa mean to you? What do you think of? What do you see? What do you envisage when you see Eti-Osa?
Okay, thank you for having us here. Big shout out to EIE and to Lagos Talks for putting together this very important dialogue. I agree with the sentiment that Eti-Osa is arguably one of the most important constituencies in the nation. I think, a lot has been said about, the affluence and the Ikoyis and the Lekkis and the VIs, but, Eti-Osa is also home to the masses. It's home to the grassroots. So you have, Okumopo, Okuaja, Ilason, Ajiron, Igbo-Efon, like very many villages throughout Eti-Osa, and they actually outnumber the people that are in the elites. And so it is that melting pot where there is affluence, but there is a lot of lack, there's a lot of need, there's a lot of problems, there are a lot of people who really need government intervention and right thinking, like-minded people to say, hey, how can we reform governance to take care of the needs, not just of the people and the young people in Eti-Osa, because we have a very young population, but also the young people across Nigeria as a whole. Now, what it means to me personally, I'm a son of Eti-Osa. My father is from Obalende. My father's family house is on Moloni Street. My mother went to Holy Child College. My home is in Lekki Phase 1. My mother's family home is in Ajah. So
I was raised here. My primary school, my secondary school, my business interests are here. This is where I started my record label, which is now a media and marketing agency, servicing many of the biggest brands in Nigeria. This is where we serve them. This is where my restaurant is. I co-own a restaurant chain called Suya Bistro, and we have 8 branches across Lagos, but 4 of those branches are right here in Eti-Osa. So this is where I've provided jobs. This is where I was born and bred. This is, bred, not born, but this is where I was bred. This is where I was raised. This is where I serve in church. This is where I teach. This is where I serve the community. This is home to me. It's where I'm raising my family. It's where my investments are. So whether it's by heritage, by parentage, by investments, by heart, by love, by service to the community, all of that, this is my heart. This is what Eti-Osa means to me.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now to ask you why you're running. Representative Ibrahim Obanikoro, why are you seeking to go back to the House of Representatives?
Thank you. I'm seeking to go back to the House of Representatives because I have the experience that counts, and I've been there. I've put some bills in the House. I've put some motions on the floor of the House that have not seen the light of day. I want to make sure they see the light of day. I have moved motions that our barracks should be renovated, and yet the barracks are yet to be renovated. I need to keep following and pushing on that. I've moved motions that the ocean surge that is affecting us in Okumoko and Okunwaja area, Dito Alpha Beach area, should be addressed by the federal government. We are yet to get to that. I'm in talks with the Ecological Fund Committee, and I have assurances that as soon as it's funded, they are going to come to Eti-Osa. I need to make sure that sees the day of light. I've done so many things in the National Assembly that I have to follow up on. National Assembly is a huge institution. There is no I there. It's a teamwork. Every committee has a minimum of 36 members that you have to work with at every given time. So you have to, be diplomatic. You have to play politics. You have to be friendly. You have to be shrewd. You have to just to make sure that we get these things done. So once you're in National Assembly, it's no longer I. It's a teamwork. So I have to work with all these guys to make sure that I'm able to get the things that we want to get. And it takes time because there are 360 members all trying to get something done. So you can't snap your finger and get it done. And you have to also remember that as a first timer, it takes time to get things done because there are lots of ranking members that would always usually get priority before you. So these are one of the reasons why I want to go back, so I can make sure that the motions and the bills that I have passed become law. Some of them are about to go through second reading. It's unfortunate that COVID did not help matters. I think we're on that lockdown for about 12 months or thereabout. So we're unable to do much. We have only had 2 years and 6 months to operate. We need more time to make sure that you get all these things done in the National Assembly.
Okay. So this is you going for a second term as a House of Representatives member?
Yes, this is me going for so that I can be there for my people, facilitate more roads, facilitate more clinics, facilitate more
you're pushing
schools,
the message of continuity,
experience, and continuity.
Right, fantastic. I mean, the last time around, you gave it your best shot, and you're still in the race. Why?
Okay, so for me, I over the past 14, 15 years of me being relevant on the entertainment scene and relevant as an entrepreneur and owner of small business in Nigeria, I've been very vocal about the need for good governance, about the need for young people to participate in politics, about the need to hold our representatives and elected officials accountable for the offices that they occupy. I've probably participated in more peaceful protests than most people that I know, the most recent being EndSARS. But going back, we've worked with Enough is Enough. We've done the RSVP, the Light Up Nigeria, the Bring Back Our Girls, the Occupy Nigeria. You name any youth-led movement or protest, I was either, on the front line holding the megaphone or in the WhatsApp group that's planned these things, because I believe we have to be the change that we want to see in our country. Now, at the end of the day, some years ago, I realized that, the thought started to dawn on me that the goal of activism and advocacy is change, it's impact, it's improvement. And if we've not yet started to see the kind of change and impact and improvement that we seek, then we have to begin to move from protest to power. We have to cross the aisle. Those of us who are in the private sector need to find like minds to push into the public sector, to be at that table of government, of policy, of lawmaking, to start to change the narrative in the nation and put Nigeria on the path towards growth and development. And that's what pushed me to start considering the idea that we needed to do more than just shout, to do more than just talk. I believe very strongly that the way that we get out of the mess that we're in as a nation is through innovation and reform. Now, innovation doesn't happen in government offices. It happens in the private sector. It happens in fintech, in technology, in media, in entertainment, in all the private sectors that we have. Out of the 7 unicorns on the African continent, Nigeria has 5. So we chase innovation as a people pretty well. But reform can only happen when we put people at the table of policy making and lawmaking who are reformers, who are thinking, how can we do this a different way? Insanity, they say, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we need to put reformers in the National Assembly, people who are creative thinkers, people who can think outside of the box, people who can approach the laws that exist and say, can this be amended to be more impactful and more effective?
All right.
Can we do things differently?
So you are the change maker. You want to,
by God's
you're the
grace,
disruptor.
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The man who's been there for some time wants to go back and continue. He has a number of things that he has on his agenda. He has a number of things that he started doing, and he used the word ranking member. And I know some of the ranking members. I can talk about maybe Kingsley Chinda. You know, he's been there for some time. So I know if he wants to do something, he finds it easy to do it. I know Honorable Ndide Lumelu finds it easier to do it. And all these guys have been there for years. You know, so wouldn't it be wiser for you to, and anyone who was contest to say, let's give those who've been there for some time, you know, like the gentleman here, to settle down and just keep push. You've heard him say he has some things he's not finished, unfinished business.
Right. I've studied his actions in the House pretty well, and I do appreciate the efforts that he has made, his attempts at service to the community. With that being said, I think 4 years is enough time to prove what you bring to the table. I just believe that we deserve more. I believe that we deserve reform. I believe that, you know, our educational system deserves reform. We need NYSC reform. We need access to technology. You know, I think a lot of people who get into the National Assembly, and this is not, you know, pointing fingers at him, I'm just saying the mindset is that, oh, this is the way things go. And, you know, from a lawmaking perspective, you average maybe a bill a year. You know, you average a motion or 2 a year.
But he said it's not easy. You have to wait for
difficult.
the turn.
I don't
people
believe,
ahead of you.
I don't believe that difficult means impossible, though. I believe that if you approach it with a different mindset, and if you go into there with fresh ideas, with the intention to reform, and of course you have to lobby, of course you have to collaborate, of course you have to partner with people, of course you have to partner with the private sector, right? Because government can't do everything. Reps don't even have a budget, technically. So your whole job is creating these partnerships between the public and the private sector to get things done. And in my private capacity, I'm already doing that. I'm working with UNICEF right now on a project called Gen U Niger. By 2030, by God's grace, we would have lifted 20 million young people in Nigeria from learning to earning. That's the goal of the project. That's the scale that we're looking for. That's the kind of reform that we need. I've worked with the Lekki Food Bank. We started it during the lockdown, when most people in our government were taking time off and saying, no, everything is on lockdown. And it wasn't for a year, by the way, it was for 3 months. But while they took that time off, we put together the Lekki Food Bank.
We all know that lockdown was longer than 3 months.
It was not a year.
It's definitely a
Lockdown
year.
Didn't take a year. Please let me
definitely a year. It's definitely long enough to be a year.
In that time, we put together the Lekki Food Bank. From that time till now, Lekki Food Bank has fed over 150,000 people, to the glory of God. I think that's the approach that we need to take. It's that partnership between the public and the private sector, people who are already showing by their example that they're able to do those kinds of things.
All right, let me quickly go over. Thank you, gentlemen. Let me quickly go over to Olufemi Oladehin. You're a corporate guy. I mean, you're a finance guy. Why politics? You know.
So,
yeah.
very, very easy answer. Look, democracy started for another time in 1999. From 1999 to date, when we had the first elections in 1999, I was 24. I was doing well with my career, and in 24 years, Nigeria has basically moved from gear 1 to gear 2. Countries have moved from third world to first world in 24 years. Countries have turned their situations around, gone from consumption-driven, import-dependent to first world countries. And there are examples all over the place. The fundamental difference between Nigeria and those countries has been leadership. End of story. Poverty of leadership, poverty of ideas, poverty of execution, and selfishness. So you see, the reality is that the average politician comes every 4 years and tells us the story of, oh, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do this. And when you go talking to people on the streets, they tell you that we only see you once in 4 years. You come, you tell us what you're going to do, and then we never hear from you again until the next time elections are coming.
Sure.
For me, having gone through this 24 years of this endless cycle of electing people into political office, then doing really nothing at the end of the day, and then 4 years later, the political system still finds a way to return the same candidates, right? And over, or the same candidates in different shades or in different colors. And the reality is that, as Banky said, you know, we can all sit down in our spaces and literally, you know, complain. We become chief complainants, and we moan about the things that we expect government to do, and nobody's doing it. Or we realize that the easiest way to perpetuate a hegemony that hasn't done anything for you is for you to be quiet. Is for you to just sit and wait for things to happen to you. And for someone like me, it's a very easy decision, right? Easy in the sense that, look, I've spent the last 32 years of my life in the private sector. Some of the projects that the current government in Lagos, for example, celebrates as their wins were projects that I originated.
Which ones?
Well, maybe we shouldn't be speaking names, just because some of them are they're very troublesome projects now. Okay. So, but I mean, I have been at the forefront of working with government as an investment banker, okay, towards bringing in capital. Okay. And you see, part of the problem we have is we have a system that in itself isn't structured to support the private sector. The laws are so outdated that the average business person doesn't even understand what he has to contend with in terms of taxes, in terms of regulations, multiple regulations. And look, this National Assembly in particular is probably the worst that we've had, because on a regular basis, they're just creating parastatals on a regular basis that become bottlenecks for the private sector. This current one, bottlenecks for the private sector. Every month there is a new body being created, and we're talking about government that is too expensive, that is not contributing to the performance of the economy itself. So look, for me, it was very easy. It's easy to sit down at home and complain, but I feel that unless people like me show up in the political space and give Nigerians and Lagosians and Eti-Osa people an alternative, that my motivations are different from the motivations of an average politician. Right. I want to see the lives of people improve, because it's happened in other countries before now. And honestly, when I look at the performance of Representative Obanikoro relative to some of the other guys who have been in the National Assembly, okay, you know, there is a desire to say, look, you know what, he's probably done okay. But my problem is this. This is my problem.
Yeah, what's the problem?
My problem is that the way we consider intervention is where I have a problem with.
Okay.
The way we consider intervention by, again, I mean, honestly, congratulations to Banky and the feed Eti-Osa. We started to do it in Oniru, literally the first week of COVID, and we fed people throughout, and that was what morphed into other places and all. But
Honorable, it seems you're the only
but
one
that's
who
hold on. That's
No, you
not.
see, let me
no,
tell
no.
you,
But hold on.
it seems
Hold on.
completely fair.
I don't think that's fair to
To
him.
me, that's not a win. You're feeding people is not a win.
And that's exactly where I was
As
going.
a Muslim, it's what I'm supposed to do. Help the needy. And I'm not supposed to carry loud mic and tell the world, hey, I fed the world. No,
but you
that's not a win to me.
Have you
I'm sorry. Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
But this is what I was saying, though. It's beyond that. Look, virtually every time you see people say, there's in Eti-Osa you see these buses where they say sponsored by this person, and I just find it outrageous. It's our resources, it's our money. You know, don't come and celebrate spending our money on us. The reality is that what we should be celebrating is us acting as catalysts for people to find emancipation by themselves.
Yes,
not about just going there and saying, oh, I facilitated this, I facilitated that. No. What we're saying is drive the reforms that this country requires.
But you had the representative of Obanikoro here saying that it takes time.
Look,
Each committee has about 38 members.
fantastic. So let me tell you the funny story about it. For the guys on the streets, time is money. Every single day of their life that they don't get the contribution that they require or that is needed is a day lost.
So you're saying the guys there are being slow?
Of course.
I'm sorry. If you want to actually, and this goes to Banky as well, if you want to make immediate impact that you're so anxious to make, run for local government chairman, run for governorship, run for president. Those are the people that can snap their fingers and get things done because they have a budget to do that. In the National Assembly, you don't have a budget.
Yes.
Whatever laws, whatever bills, whatever motions that you're moving, you're still sending it to the executive arm of government.
Yes. Now,
And if you want to make the immediate impact you want to make in your locality, Eti-Osa to be exact, run for local government chairman in Eti-Osa.
here's what I would say to respond to that. I think, first of all, there are problems.
The National Assembly has 360 members.
there are
You can't make
problems.
laws for Eti-Osa alone.
There are
If you want to make laws for Eti-Osa alone, go to Lagos State House of Assembly
Okay,
or
now,
run for councillorship
I would
that will
like to
make
say-
laws for Eti-Osa alone.
I would like
In
to say,
National Assembly, whatever motion, whatever bill you're going to pass has to cross across the entire Nigeria to make sure that your whatever it is that is gaining for you here is not a loss for them in the north.
okay, now
So
let's
if you
talk
want
about
to snap
that.
your
Let's
finger,
talk about that.
run
So let's
for
talk
executive
about
arm
that.
of
Okay, sorry,
government.
Kofi. Let me talk about that. So first of all, I think that we are all aware that the local government elections are held by the state
forget the issue.
electoral
Forget
body.
that you are being
No,
political.
you can't do
Forget
that. You can't do
forget electoral processes.
Ibrahim,
Forget
you need to
electoral.
let-
No,
let
but
people
it's
talk
part of the
because
process.
I didn't interrupt you.
Electoral.
It's part of the
Forget
process.
electoral
Sorry,
process. I have run for
sorry.
local government chairman before because I had desired so much
And
change.
they stole it
I
from
did
you.
And they
not-
stole it from
No,
you.
no, that's my,
Did they
that's
steal it
my
from you or
issue.
not?
Calm down. That's
Did
my
they steal it from you or
listen,
not?
But the fact is that I had so much in me that
Okay,
there
now-
has to be
now
that
listen,
change.
now
I
listen.
wanted that change so badly. I went against all the odds.
Now listen.
I didn't think that because it's a school system,
here's
I'm
the
not going to
problem. If
contest.
we're going to have a dialogue,
I wanted
other people
change.
have to be able
I
to
wanted
respond.
change.
Yes.
I wanted change. I went out there to ensure
Okay.
that I went for change.
And-
I
and
followed
they
it
would-
all the way.
If you are
have
going to have a
the process.
dialogue, we have to all be able to speak.
I'm timing everything. Don't worry. Okay.
Okay.
So, representative, let's allow Banky W, and then
Okay.
we'll come to.
And please, when we're speaking, I think we should honor ourselves by allowing the person to finish his
not the
point.
problem. That's why I wanted
before
him
we
to
cut
land.
it. No,
That's what I
I'm
meant.
referring to.
No
Obanikoro
problem. We are
because
on
If
top.
you're not-
We are
if
on
what
top.
you're saying
We are-
is
see,
not
and
in
then
line.
we are on top. We are on
If
top.
what you're
then we
saying-
will again.
I need
Okay,
to let
so
you.
No,
I need
you
to-
can
excuse
respond when
me,
you have-
representative,
when you have-
please,
When
please,
there is a
Ibrahim,
wrong
excuse
allow
me.
me, allow me, allow me,
Ibrahim,
allow me, allow
I'm
me.
cutting.
You
so that
can-
when
you don't
No
need
problem.
to
Just
cut it.
allow
You
me,
can
allow
do
me.
that a lot.
The listeners
You
are
can
about to call in,
respond.
please.
You
Okay,
need to
can
make sure
respond.
that does not happen.
Please, allow me. I know what I'm doing.
Well, you
So
have
over
said
to you.
all
Over to
that you have said.
Honorable,
I
please.
didn't interrupt. But when you
Representative,
start
please.
I'm
misleading
not speaking
people,
now.
Please,
I will interrupt
yes,
you.
okay, thank you. Banky, please go on.
Okay, please permit me
No,
to
yeah.
speak.
Go on,
Actually
yeah.
speak. Okay, now, there are two things I want to say. One, there are problems with the electoral process for our local government elections. Anybody who doesn't acknowledge that is just lying to themselves. Our representative has been a victim of those problems when he went for local government chairman. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that even as a lawmaker, that you have two responsibilities. You have three, actually. One is lawmaking, proposing bills, amendments to current laws to reshape the way that our nation is. And I think that that's a very critical job. So if we're talking about that, in our educational system, there's a law called the Universal Basic Education Act. It's a counterpart-funded program that says states can access money to improve their educational infrastructure as long as they bring 50% of the money. The problem with that is that most states in Nigeria are struggling financially, and so they can never meet up to bring their half of the money. So why don't we propose a reform? And that's what my candidacy is all about. Rethinking the way we're doing governance, rethinking our lawmaking. Why don't we propose some reform to that law that says, instead of it being counterpart funded, let's make it a program for results. What's your teacher student ratio? What's your pass rate? What's your enrollment in your state? How do we incentivize the performance of our educational sector in the states, so that a state that is struggling fiscally is not punished because they will never be able to meet up with their part of the funding? How do we do that? How do we propose reform to our NYSC program? I don't know that there's anybody who wouldn't agree that NYSC, as of today, doesn't achieve what it was originally designed for. Okay. So how do we reform it? How do we say, okay, excise it from the Constitution, instead of making it mandatory, make it optional? You can pay the students more. Instead of 30K, which does nothing in today's Nigeria, you can pay them 40 or 50 or 60. And then we take the sunk costs of the buildings and the campsites and the staff and turn it into a skill acquisition center. Give them access to technology, give them training. Those are the kinds of laws that we're talking about that would benefit the entire nation. Now, when you talk about lawmaking as a nation, your rep can still put together public-private partnerships that will have a level of impact at the local, in your constituency level.
The rep can engage in that?
The rep can facilitate that. And everybody sitting at this table knows that. The rep can put those public-private partnerships together. So in Eti-Osa, can we have a public-private partnership that gives...
It's meant to be in Abuja.
But you have responsibilities both ways. Most representatives spend their time going back and forth between Abuja, speaking for their constituency, and then coming back to Lagos. So
just to chip in, Banky, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Some legislators will always say that people misunderstand the role of the legislator.
Yes.
They feel that they should do things.
Yes.
But they say their role is to make laws.
Yes. Now, the problem with that is that if we said a legislator would only make laws, there's too much lack, poverty, anger in the land that people in your constituency will stone you if all you do is say you are putting laws. So lawmaking is extremely important, but you also have to show some level of impact at the local level. So how do we do that in Eti-Osa? How do we make Eti-Osa a technology hub? How do we...
Wouldn't you be carrying too much?
I don't think so.
Is that realistic?
I think this.
The other one isn't it.
When you say that you want to go into public service, that's the job. It's to do a lot. It's to do more. It's to serve people. It's to help people. It's to leave a fingerprint of impact on your constituency. So in Eti-Osa, how do we make a technology hub? I have a restaurant chain called Suya Bistro, right? The guy who built the technology backend for Suya Bistro, his name is David. Okay. David came from a poor background. Grassroots family, really had nothing going for himself, knew that the education that he was getting would not be worth the paper that he's printed it on. So he started queuing up in Computer Village every day, begging people to take him on as an apprentice. Eventually somebody did. And as he learned to fix hardware, phones and computers, he taught his guys. And then he learned basic computing. He taught his guys. And then he upskilled, learned cybersecurity. Now, as of today, this guy has his own technology firm. He's the chief technology officer for one of the biggest food companies in Nigeria. He's built the back end for Domino's, for Cold Stone, for Suya Bistro. They are now pitching for tech services out of the country. So how do I give the young people of Eti-Osa that kind of opportunity? How do I get a public-private partnership to give them access to technology in the wards of Eti-Osa so that other young people have a chance to either be an entrepreneur or be employees, be employable?
And you think you have the time to do a lot of that when you have to go for committee meetings in Abuja?
My brother, that's where partnerships come in. Right. As I'm talking to you, that program has already been designed. We'll use the powers of the office to create the partnership where it can happen.
All right. Thank you. I'll come to aspirant from the ADC, Olufemi Oladehin. I think you're in a party here without a presidential candidate, but you're holding on. It's all good. I don't know.
We do.
Maybe back.
Well,
No.
yeah. Well,
No, he's
look,
gone. Okay.
their problem. But let me say something here. Look, at the end of the day, we shouldn't make this democracy look like we invented it. We didn't, right?
Yeah.
We're effectively copying, other democratic practices. The US runs exactly the same type of, system that we have. Look, and no one is holding Jide accountable, for example, by saying you did not build roads or you didn't provide health care, because that's not your job. Constitutionally, it's not your job. The truth here is there is a lot of facilitation that is required for us to bring governance closer to the people. And for me, that's where the issue is. It's about bringing the governors closer to the people and giving them a sense of being part of a system that cares about them. And that's why I keep talking about the interventions that we get. Those interventions are not going to solve our problem. It's the same way the federal government does during COVID. They're giving people 3,000 naira, 5,000 naira, and all of that. You never bring people out of poverty by giving them handouts or hand-me-downs. Yes. You bring people out of poverty by creating a system that fosters creativity, entrepreneurship, education. Look, we have a curriculum. Don't even get me started with that. We have a curriculum that isn't fit for the 19th century employee. As I'm saying, guys who were working in the industrial age, we have a curriculum that is not fit for them. And in 2023, literally when the world has become a global village, we now have skills that can easily be transported out of Nigeria, can become import income earners for the country. What I'm saying is, and you see, look, let me say this just before I land on that point. The bigger problem we have is we need a critical mass of Nigerians who believe that we can't continue with the way we've been going. And that critical mass needs to be able to get into a position where they can have the numbers. Banky was talking about NYSC. We've seen this National Assembly completely shut down an intervention in the NYSC Act. Literally happened a week ago or two weeks ago. There was someone had actually proposed a bill for NYSC to become exactly as you said, and the bill was defeated. Again, why? Simply because the quality of people as a generality that are in the National Assembly, there's a problem with that quality. Okay. So even if
we have we have a lack of quality,
we have poor representation. That's obvious. I mean, look, I say this honestly, and it's not an indictment on the candidates. It's not an indictment on it's an indictment on the political system that only gives us those kind of candidates to vote for.
Won't that system affect you when you get there?
Look, at the end of the day,
because you're saying it's not
well, so I can throw shades at both of them now because you're giving me an opportunity to look. The reality is that whether you like it or not, Nigeria has had two dominant parties since the beginning. Nigeria has had two dominant parties. If you're going to throw the problems of Nigeria and outcomes of Nigeria at anyone, it is those two parties, the APC and the PDP. Well, the APC in whichever form in which it's morphed into. The reality is that you can't divorce where Nigeria is today from those guys. And what we're saying is, let's try other people. Let's create a critical mass that completely removes these guys, replaces them with people that we can hold accountable. You see, the accountability part is extremely important. You see, because when a political system is responsible for throwing you up as a candidate and the people haven't played an active role in that, it's always going to be a problem. Let me share numbers with you. At the last elections, federal, state elections, 1 in 6 voters in Lagos came out to vote. And the only reason why that happened was because they didn't have a horse in the race. They knew that the candidates that were thrown up by the political system had no representation whatsoever to do with them. Now, we're hoping that with the fallout of the whole EndSARS protests and the reawakening of the political consciousness of the average Nigerian, that a lot more people are going to come out and use their franchise and vote for other people today. But look, at the end of the day, what we're asking for is representative democracy that is impactful to the people, impactful to their everyday life, ensuring that the laws that have been passed by the National Assembly are for the benefit of the people.
You're saying that one of the reasons that you should be there, people who are not amongst the big two, if you want to call it that, is that Banki and his party, or Banki's party, is part of the problem with Nigeria. And Jide's party is also APC and PDP, part of the problem with Nigeria. But people are looking at Labour Party, maybe not ADC, as the third.
Oh, that's what you think. I mean, look. At the end of the day, it's about. I think you have to give Nigerians some credit, right? Over the last 4 years, we've seen, like I said earlier on, we've seen an awakening of the political consciousness of the average Nigerian. So, for the first time, people are not thinking of voting parties. They're looking at the individual records of the people. Okay. You go to certain states, you will see people campaigning with a different presidential candidate to their party.
So it's about the individuals.
It's about the individuals.
Gentlemen, I'll come back to you, to Representative Obanikoro. What do you say about the fact that he's saying that the voters should reject you because your party is part of the problem of Nigeria?
Well, none of them have told any voter to reject me. They've all
invariably that's what it means.
They have both tried to convince voters to vote them, and I don't think they've been successful at doing that.
If the voters vote them, it means that voters should not vote you.
No, that's what I'm saying. They are trying to convince voters to vote for them. Yes. They've not told anybody not to vote for me. And like I said, I don't think they've been successful at doing that. Because you see, just like I told you, National Assembly, in a committee, you have barest minimum of 36 people because each state has to be represented. National Assembly has 360 people. And when I was talking earlier, I said the interest has to be universal across Nigeria. You brought up the NYSC issue. I wanted to interject, but since you guys said I should let him talk, I allowed him to,
go on. We're listening to
melody
you now.
as he usually does. And
no, listen to you now.
I allowed him, and luckily for me, my brother here came up with that there was a bill just that was shut down. That's what I'm saying. See, it's no longer I. Once you're at the National Assembly, you are dealing with 360 people.
But they're saying you guys are...
But we have to take you as a basket,
the same guys are not being aggressive.
Let me land. Yeah. You see, this thing, whether you like it or not, it's about interests. The Southwest interest is different from that of the Northwest. It's different from that of the South-South. It's different from that of the Southeast. That's why I'm telling you, whatever it is you want to propose in the National Assembly has to cut across before it will see the light of day in the National Assembly. With experience, and also you have to also remember that all these things, majority of them, goes back to the executive arm of government, where the civil servants are. Majority or just call and blame all the politicians all you want. Civil servants also have a role to play. So it's like playing football. It's easier to blame the coach. It's easier to say, Rashford should have, stopped it like this, kicked it like this. But when they put you in Rashford's position, then you will see that it's not as easy as you think. So it's a lot easier to just come here, sing all the sweet words, preach all the preachables, and just try to, you are dealing with human beings. It's not a computer that you are dealing with. You're dealing with human beings. You're dealing with interests and so many other factors that come into play. The bill you're talking about was shut down in the National Assembly, and so many other bills. At times, they will tell you to go back to the agency. Let the agency bring these bills to the National Assembly. A lot of reforms have been done on the issue of NYSC. A lot of reforms. So it's better than what it used to be.
Are you observing table manners?
So, but
maybe they are radical because they have not gotten there.
No, not at all. And this is where my point is.
That is why.
Hold on. Just before you go to Banki,
one sentence.
Just before you go to Banki,
because maybe you guys are just radical because you've not been there.
No. But this is a problem, right? Look, because it's unfortunate that you've made this an Eti-Osa conversation.
Yes, it's
but it's good that the Eti-Osa people get to hear at least the quality of people who are talking to them. Yeah. This is where the issue is. Look. Again, a democracy is always as strong as the people that it throws up. And I think that's where the bigger problem is. We're probably blessed in Eti-Osa that you can say candidates that are being thrown up by the political space in Eti-Osa. You know, you can look, the truth is, any of those three guys here, including myself, I'll probably vote for them any day, right? But here's a problem. We've been voting for them. That's the reality. We've been voting for them for the past 6 election cycles.
Okay. So it was actually Banky's turn. So Banky has
go on,
to go.
Banky.
Okay. So he's saying, I mean, your party is...
I'd like to say something about the party conversation. In 2019, I did what Pastor Femi is trying to do now. I started a party with a friend. It was called MDP, Modern Democratic Party. It was myself and wasn't really a party. It was two people. BK was running in Ondo State. I was running in Lagos, in Eti-Osa.
2013.
2019.
Okay.
And, you know, I think we ran the kind of campaign that most people were proud of. But at the end of the day, one thing that I learned is that we must engage with Nigeria where it is, not where we want it to be. And this is where Nigeria is. Now, there is no perfect organization on the face of this earth. There's no perfect church, there's no perfect mosque, there's no perfect school, there's no perfect company, there's no perfect family where you will not have a couple of people in the family that have brain touch. And at the end of the day, just like you said, the democracy is only as good as the people that are involved in it. So when we look at the party, I'm in the PDP, yes. Am I here to defend the history of everything bad that anyone in the PDP has ever done? Absolutely not. Do I acknowledge that some of the pain in Nigeria has been caused by some people within the PDP in our history? Absolutely. But I'm not here to defend the history. I'm here to reform the future, to redefine the future. At the end of the day, sir, with all due respect, I know the ADC very well. You are not in the wards. You're not in the zones. Of the 725 polling units across the multiple zones in the 10 wards in Eti-Osa, how many have you been to? How many of them have you gone to the communities and talked to the people?
Are you looking at convenience, Banky?
No, it's not a matter of convenience. It's a matter
easy way out.
It's a matter of engaging with Nigeria where it is. To get, listen, the entire point of this is not awareness. Awareness is not a goal. Awareness is a tool. The goal is change. The goal is improvement. The goal is impact. And just like my brother said, if you are not in the team, if you don't get into the game, you can't change it. I'm an Arsenal fan.
You want to play a game?
Listen, I'm an Arsenal fan.
Manchester United?
Sorry, sir.
Red
Please,
Devil
let
all
me
the
land.
way.
I'm an Arsenal fan. I can complain about it, raise awareness about it. If I'm not on the field or in the team or find some way to be a part of the system, I cannot influence the system. So we have to look at it and say, how do we get inside to fix it from within?
Are you going to fight your party?
Do you think that we are not going through our own? Let me tell you about my primaries. There are battles that you fight even within the party when you represent disruption. I won my primaries in a landslide. The next day, the result sheet said something different. This is where Nigeria is. You either give in or you fight, and we fought. And it took weeks. It took an appeals committee. It took so much out of us to come back. They said, okay, go and do a rerun of your primaries. We did it again. We won it again in a landslide. That's what fighting from within looks like. We can stay on the outside all we want, but we must get into this system to fix it. Now, you talked about accountability. I'm accountable to the people because it's the people that are backing me, even from within the party. Now in the general election, I think that you have to earn the right to lead. You have to earn the right to serve. You have to fight in your party primaries and get that. At the end of the day, there are people who, they don't need the people to get the tickets. It doesn't matter what happens in the primaries. They're just going to get the ticket anyway. So there's a difference. To get that accountability, you are looking at it. This is how you get it. And I promise you, we represent that disruption to the system. We represent that change to the status quo. For anybody who is happy with the way things are in Nigeria, no problem, let's leave it where it is. For those of us who want a different country, a better country, we have to get into this thing to fix it.
Back it up, you're a pastor, and the Bible says, blessed is he that standeth on the way of sinners. Not seated, not on the seat. So if it was scornful, so if he's saying your party was is part of the problem, you guys were there for 16
Let me tell you
years,
something. You want to talk the Bible? Let's talk about the Bible. Yeah. If Daniel does not serve in Babylon, the Jews die. If Joseph does not work with Pharaoh, the Jews die.
Pastor,
if Esther does not get into the palace with the king, the Jews die.
So look.
So there is a history. Nehemiah, who was the government official that rebuilt the walls of Israel, was serving in a foreign government. He was serving, and it was by being in that government that he was able to bring about the reform. And Pastor knows what I'm talking about.
Is that true?
So let me respond to Banky. Look,
it's a biblical response.
Not a biblical response. Don't worry. Let's not make it a religious conversation. Look, this is it for me, right? At the end of the day, there's so many things that we need to look at the way we define our politics. I would say for someone like Jide, for example, who's the APC candidate and our current rep, he's constrained by the ideologies of his party. What is the agenda that his party wants to drive? And to a large extent, he's going to be constrained by it. I believe the same problem Banky has. Yeah, Banky is going to say to us that, look, you know what, I'm the change, I'm the light bringer and all of that. But the reality is you will succumb to the supremacy of the party. Just hold your thought.
Okay.
You will succumb to the supremacy of the party. When the chips are down, when the sheaves are out, you will succumb to the supremacy of the party. And for me, as an individual, I have looked at the parties, what they stand for, what they've achieved, and I'm saying that we need to offer Nigerians an alternative.
Yeah.
I want to respond to that. When we talk about party ideologies, let me tell you what the PDP's ideology is. It's democracy. PDP is a truly democratic institution. Now that can be good or bad, because a democracy, as we all agree, is a product of the people that are involved in it. So if you leave the party and say, you leave it for corrupt people, then you will have corrupt results.
So you agree there are corrupt people there?
There are corrupt people everywhere. There are corrupt people in your family. There are corrupt people in church.
Yes.
But when good people get into the system and get into the soil and get working, there is listen, this room can be dark right now. One touchlight makes a difference, right or wrong? There is an opportunity for us to get into this thing to fix it. Half the people that are in these smaller parties, they lost their ambition in the big two and they moved into there. So you may think that it's perfect today, but watch as the party grows, watch as it builds out. You will run into the same set of imperfect, flawed people. The Labour Party, the ADC, check the records, check the people that are there. They were in the PDP, they were in the APC, they were in different parties, and they've crisscrossed. What I am saying is I'm trying to build a bridge that is big enough and open the door that is wide enough for right-thinking, like-minded people to come into mainstream politics and fix it from within. Right. And I believe we have a chance to do that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm glad that my fellow contendants are catching up in speed with me. The realization that they are waking up to within the last 4 or 5 years, I've realized this since the day I started politicking. I've always advocated for young people to join either of the mainstream parties. That is the only way. If you want to make any impact, if you want to make a real impact, join one of the mainstream parties. Struggle your way, find your way. If you have 15 young men contesting for a particular seat in the party primaries, that means you are rest assured that you have at least one young man that will emerge out of the 15 primaries. And this is what I've always preached, that look, everybody join either PDP, APC, those are the parties that are holding sway today. Join one of them and then
okay, so you're saying it's not good there. I mean, these guys you're agreeing that they're part of the problem, but you don't have a choice. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, if you want to really make that impact, I'm glad he eventually joined PDP. I was a member of the PDP, where democracy indeed does live. But then again, you have to also remember, it's this same PDP at one point in time that the governor's forum produced a situation where 11 was greater than, 9 is greater than 11, or I don't remember the figures anymore. It's still the same PDP. I was a member of that party. I left the party for good reasons. The people I left there, I love, I cherish, I adore. I still have good relationships with them. Okay. But I moved on to a new party.
You just might go back, who knows?
I moved on to a new party where I felt there has been progress in Nigeria. Now, let me just mention 2 projects that I believe will convince you. We've been hearing about the Niger Bridge since I was a kid. Today, Niger Bridge is a reality. It's there.
It's not your party. The party didn't conceive the project.
Hey, calm down. The federal government constructed it. It started under Buhari. It finished under Buhari.
That's not entirely true, though. But let's leave that.
That is exactly what it is.
No, that's not entirely true.
And they say it's not whoever starts it, it's whoever finishes it.
I think so. Olusegun Obasanjo on the last day, a day before he left office, went there then dug the ground.
And that's starting it. Okay,
Foundation.
I guess that's it. And then let me also now use Lagos Ibadan Expressway. Excuse me, as another example. Lagos Ibadan Expressway has never made this smooth. You can start from Mowe Bafo and drive all the way to Ibadan. If there are no other vehicles there, you have no cause to slow down because of one bad road or pothole. Those are two examples of what the APC has done in the federal level. Yeah. And on the state level, Lagos State, come on, it's a pride of Nigeria. They just launched the rail.
Did you just say that?
And yes, it's the pride of Nigeria. Whichever state is.
Again, it's because the benchmark is so low.
Gentlemen, he said Nigeria.
Can you just imagine that?
We just launched a rice mill in Imota in Ikorodu.
That's the largest in Africa.
The largest in Africa. So what?
But people. I must be honest. Most listeners feel that it's a bad idea because they feel there's no rice in Lagos. They should have cited it maybe in Kebbi or.
Imota is in Lagos.
No. They said that where would you get the rice from?
Of course, we import it from Kebbi.
Okay. And then some people feel it's not a good idea.
Why?
Yes, we had almost 3 hours of discussion on this.
Let's talk
Why
about.
But please continue to read out.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So those are some of the things that the state has done. And if you come
We
to
have the deep sea port.
the deep sea port right there, that's progress in the last 8 years that we have made that we didn't make in the prior 16 years of the PDP. And if you come to the local level, I can count the amount of roads in Ikoyi Balinde that are not either tarred or interlocked. I can count in Iruvi as well. Then if you now go to west and east, that is where you now have a bit more of roads that are untarred. But if you go there today, kudos to all the private kudos to all the private estates too. They're also coming in with a lot of finances to get this road done with the help of myself.
We have the New Ekpe road with
the help of myself, with the help of the state government, with the help of the local government. These roads are being done. You are seeing progress on the daily basis under the government of the APC.
I think
that is why I am proud and happy that I left the PDP to join the APC.
I think if we're going to take credit for the good project the APC has
let's embrace the failures as well.
Fullness of the picture. Projects which have been promised for years. I mean, the rail line took 20-something years.
Is he seeing the light of day?
Is
he seeing the light of day today? Yes or no?
When will you learn to let people speak?
Please. But I didn't. Banky, please. Just go.
Just keep going. The light of day today? Yes or no?
If we're going to
he asked a genuine question.
Have you seen the light of day today? Yes or no?
Okay. Honorable, please go on. But you
should answer the question now. Has the rail line seen the light of day?
Thank you. That's fine.
Ibrahim, you need to learn respect.
No.
If you are going to be our representative, you need to learn respect.
Banky, please.
You need to learn
answer the question.
Honorable, please.
Answer the
question. Why are you getting
so?
Look, you're getting angry.
Focus on me.
I'm trying to.
Focus on just keep going.
Now listen.
You're the one getting frustrated.
If we are going to,
just answer the question. Yes or no?
Please.
Father Lord.
But you may choose to answer the question though.
I will.
Okay.
Yes, has it seen the light of day? Yes. Did it take a long time? Absolutely. Now, if we want to talk about the track record, let's talk about the fact that we've been in a recession every year since 2015. Every year we've been in a recession in our economy. I don't know that is the sign of a government that has performed well. If you have averaged a recession, the worst year under the PDP at the federal level is better than the best year that this administration has had. Check the economy.
Do you agree?
Check the numbers.
Look, I'm an economist. Statistically, that's a fact.
It's a fact. God bless you, sir. God bless you, sir.
Statistical fact.
The worst year under, statistically, the worst year in our economy under the PDP, the worst year is better than the best year that this administration has accomplished. So if we are going to brag, let's take the entire picture.
All right.
People are poorer in Nigeria just because we are in Nigeria. People are poorer by the year. Our economy has been shrinking.
And that's down to APC.
At least 2% every year. And Pastor Femi can back me up on this.
Representative Obanikoro, do you think that the APC is being treated fairly? I mean, we have global economic meltdown. Maybe that's the reason.
You have answered my question.
You have
I don't expect anything short from what they are saying. Of course, they are going to try and discredit my party, which is obvious. So I am not surprised. But you have just said exactly what my response was going to say.
You have the
in the UK today, they fight every day on milk price. In the United States of America as well, they're always fighting over price increase in gas every day. They fight over it. It's a global meltdown. It's not just in Nigeria alone.
Have the cost of living crisis.
It's all over the world. It's not just in Nigeria alone. At some point, even as we speak, dollar and pounds are at the same rate. I'm not saying that the situation, everybody is happy at the situation. I'm not saying it's favorable, because I am also feeling the pinch in my pocket. But the truth is that it's a global meltdown. It's not happening in just Nigeria alone. Ghanaians are complaining. If all over the Western regions,
so you're saying it's not ABC's fault,
to the extent that some countries are now having civil revolution because of their economy.
Was there a global meltdown in 2015? Answer that question. Was there a global meltdown in 2015? Was there a global meltdown in 2016? Because we were having a recession then.
I don't. In 2015, APC are just taking over from PDP.
What about 2016? What about 2017?
Just taking over.
All of those years we're just taking over.
We are just taking over. Yes.
I was hoping that we were going to leave this conversation at representing Eti-Osa, but I'm glad that you've brought it into a conversation about performance of government, and that's the reason why I'm telling Nigerians that enough of these two kangaroos, and Nigerians need to find an alternative. Look, economically, I'm an economist, so this is what I do, and I talk economics literally every day. I was on TV 2 days ago, right? Economically, Nigerians are the performance of the Nigerian economy in the last 8 years, probably in the last 24 years, literally has been atrocious.
So you're saying Banky can't absolve his party?
No, Banky can't absolve himself much, and he didn't try to. He didn't try to. In fairness to him, he didn't try to. But let's even be clear.
It was a response.
We're literally.
But in a local parlance, they will say kettle falling pot black.
It was a response.
And he's wearing black too as well. He's wearing black.
The points that he made.
In reality, though, let's talk where we are as a country. Look. The average Nigerian, virtually, literally every Nigerian, is poorer than they were 8 years ago. Fact. Whichever way you look at it, I don't care if you're stealing money from government on a regular basis or whatever it is, you're poorer than you were 8 years ago. Yes, the global economic crisis happened. That's a truism, and we can't, but COVID only started in 2020. So let's be clear about that. And prior to 2020, between 2019 and 2016,
the Russia-Ukraine war,
which only started last year as well. Yeah. So it started in February last year. Yeah. You know, this is the issue here. Look, when it comes to the economic performance of the APC, I don't even think we should put it on the table. Even their presidential candidate isn't putting it on the table. So that's a fact. You know, and I think let's leave it there. But let's talk about actual performance. Look, we talk about the infrastructure that the APC has built. The question I would always ask people is, at what cost? You have to have that conversation. At what cost? Look, I built the Lekki Expressway. So for the benefit of Nigerians, I built the Lekki Expressway.
You?
Yes.
Okay.
I was the one who was this. I sat in the room on the day that project was conceived, and I raised the funding for that project as a PPP.
Okay.
We did that project at a cost that no other project in Nigeria would ever be funded at. You know, so when we're talking about the cost of that infrastructure, Lagos State has built a rail line. Hallelujah, praise God. Took you 14 years to build a 6-kilometer rail or 13-kilometer rail line, and at least over $1 billion. The opacity of the finances of Lagos in itself is the reason why every single House of Rep member, yes, we're saying that we are representing federal, but we still have a voice in our state. This is our constituency. That people should be asking that the 2 trillion naira budget that you have, that nobody sees. Actually, Lagos has not published any account, except if anyone has seen it, let them please send me. My email is olufemi@oladehin.net.
No, but I think they put the budget online.
Yes, they put the. I'm not talking about the budget. I'm talking about accounts.
Okay.
You can budget. I'm an accountant. You can budget anything.
But that's the role of the State House Assembly. They have a public accounts committee. You know,
but we're saying the same thing again. Look, I cannot divulge Jide from his party. I cannot divulge Banky from his party.
But your party hasn't exactly covered itself in glory.
Oh, tell me.
And we all know that.
We haven't held any government.
I've spent hours analyzing the woes and the travails in your party, from the presidential primaries to the governorship primaries in Lagos State. I mean, number of names have left your party in Lagos State. I think, what's his name again? Is it Doherty? No, not Doherty.
Doherty is the current.
Yeah, oh God. Savage is no longer there. Is he still there? And the other one,
let me say something
Braithwaite
to you,
is no longer. Sorry, sir. Just a second, please. A second.
Go on.
Yeah, Braithwaite is no longer there.
Yeah.
Savage, the likes of Savage, they are no longer there. And the likes of Akinwale, they are no longer there. You know, Mogalu had a very public, statement he made before he left the ADC after that debacle of a primary at Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library. I have information about what happened. The monies that exchanged hands, the last minute hot sauce trading, and the last minute vote buying. We know about what happened in your party in Lagos State. We're journalists, so we follow these things. So your party hasn't exactly covered itself in glory.
So one of the beautiful things about democracy
and I must say that people have expressed on this program disappointment that they really were looking up to the ADC before Labour Party even came out. But the ADC, some of them say let them down, and they're looking elsewhere.
So let me.
People they say no.
Let me say this to you. Look, one of the things that Banky said that's very true is that the political process is not divulged from the people itself. Nigerians are the ones who make up the political parties that we've been talking about. Let's not be confused about that. But hold on. Let me get to one point. Let me land.
Okay.
However, there is something that I've learned in my years of business and politics in the last few years is that, look, at the end of the day, the motivations of each individual is an increasingly important part of the political process.
So you're saying it's about the individual more?
Look, at the end of the
individual
day,
motivation.
The individual motivation is why you commit yourself to a political process.
Can you take Jide and Banky as individuals to say, let me separate them from the party? Because right now you're saying, oh yeah, there is APC man. Don't vote for him, vote for me, because I'm not in the APC.
So, but let me. I'm about to answer your question. Look, there are different issues. Look, the issues that Jide has in his party, the issues that I have with his party, is that it's not a democracy. There's no need for us to debate that. It's a truism. It's not.
In your party, the democracy was put to test.
Well,
Kingsley Mogalu said that
at the end of the day, listen.
It was a fundamental clash of values.
Kingsley lost an election. Fair and square.
Money exchanged hands at your primary.
At the end of the day,
the Olusegun Obasanjo presidential library.
The onus on the accuser is to prove. The same thing was said about. Hold on, you saw them when they were exchanging money. Are you for real?
We had eyewitnesses.
The Lagos State one. Listen, the Lagos State one. I was part of the Lagos State primaries. Yeah. I was part of the Lagos State primaries.
Thugs invaded. There were people complaints of thugs being used in the process and all that.
Look,
why did the likes of Braithwaite leave?
Because they lost the primary. It's as simple as that.
But the complaints,
they lost the election.
The process, their complaints about the credibility.
They never even waited to prove the allegations that they were making. That's the truth. Listen, I have exchanges with them on my phone because I said to them, if you could show me one proof that the allegations that you're making are true, I will publicly resign from the party. There is not one of them, and I'm making this challenge again on national radio. If they can prove one of the allegations they made about the primaries, I will resign my candidacy today.
What about the presidential primary?
Look, I don't defend things I don't know anything about. I wasn't a delegate at the presidential primary. I did not vote there, so I can't tell you exactly what happened there because I wasn't an eyewitness. In the Lagos primaries, I was a delegate. I voted.
Were thugs used at any point?
No, that's not true. There's video. There were TV stations in that place from the beginning of the process till the end.
Was there any complaint of the process being scuttled? Maybe delegates and all that?
Nope, there was none.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. We have eyewitnesses from the presidential primary. We have people who actually and
the good thing, as you've seen, is that our presidential candidate, and I'm saying this to everyone here, is has he campaigned for anybody? He hasn't campaigned to anyone because he knows that he doesn't have the backing of the party members.
All right.
And look, democracy is like that, right? At the end of the day, you back the candidate that you feel best represents your interests.
Okay.
And for a lot of us, we don't feel that the candidate that emerged represents our interests.
All right. Gentlemen, let's move over to your plans. All right,
yes.
Now let's talk about that. For those who are listening, we'd be glad to have you. It's still the late edition right here on Lagos Talks 91.3. My name is Kofi Bartels. The Eti Osa Legislative Dialogue is on the air right now, brought to you by Lagos Talks 91.3 and Enough is Enough Nigeria, a civil society organization, and we're glad to them for this. We have in the studio tonight three wonderful gentlemen who are asking you if you are a voter in Eti-Osa Federal Constituency, where we are right now, to cast your vote for them when you go to the polling unit on the set date for the House of Representatives, so the federal elections. Eti-Osa, as we said earlier, is perhaps the wealthiest and most advanced governance division in Nigeria. And I guess they all agreed. I think that's one thing they agreed on. They said, at the onset of this program, it's a melting pot of the wealthiest denomination in Nigeria. Another candidate described it as the most important area in Nigeria. Another of the candidates in the studio here described it as a mix of wealthy and middle class, and said we shouldn't look at just the wealthy, but also the middle class, talking about some parts of Eti-Osa like Obalende. Another candidate said it's the fastest growing hub in West Africa, and all that. So it's great to know that you're listening. We'll take your calls pretty shortly. But Eti-Osa has a lot to offer. In fact, the entire country, people dream of flocking to Eti-Osa. That was also where the EndSARS protest was held, the major one that we all watched in 2020 at the Lekki toll gate, where some lives were lost. The panel of inquiry set up by Lagos State government.
There's a dispute on that.
Well, the panel of inquiry set up, that's what I'm trying to say it this way. The panel of inquiry set up by Lagos State government described it as a massacre. That's what the panel said. So, gentlemen, Eti-Osa is where the EndSARS protest held. I want to take your thoughts on what transpired there, generally speaking, the entire process, and the loss of lives. Today, the spokesman for the Lagos State Police Command put out a picture of a wanted man who was holding, brandishing a pump-action rifle at Ojota, and he said he's declared wanted, and people were replying to his tweets saying, what about the guys who opened fire on protesters during the EndSARS period and all that? So the EndSARS is pretty fresh, in the minds of the constituents in Eti-Osa. And I think it will figure on their minds in determining how to go about, thumbprinting on that ballot paper on election day. I'll start with the PDP. Let's do this in order of holding power. We'll come to ADC, might be the next two. So I'll start with the PDP candidate here. Honorable, he's an honorable man because it's already in his mind there. Representative.
To be.
Okay.
Incoming.
Olubankole Wellington of the PDP.
Yes,
Representative Ibrahim Obanikoro of the APC and Olufemi Oladehin of ADC. ADC sounds like APC. I hope people don't get it confused.
We've cleared that confusion.
All right, interesting. They're both here. And I like the fact that we're having a friendly conversation. How young men? That is exciting as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. That is exciting because it shows that Nigeria is moving forward. I think the biggest positive from this is that you are all young-minded, upwardly mobile. You have a global mindset, and that is great. Banky W,
yes, sir.
What's your take on the entire EndSARS protest and the aftermath?
Wow. The EndSARS protest was something that still is very close to my heart because I was part of the group of young people who organized the peaceful protests, who were pulling for reform, who were trying to hold the government accountable for the behavior of our security agencies. Now, the peaceful protests I thought were very positive for our national conversation. I thought the awareness that it raised was very positive. In the aftermath, there are a lot of pain points. I think that the panel that Lagos State put in charge of investigating gave Lagos State the report and said, yes, a shooting did happen. Yes, there were victims. And not just victims there, but victims over the course of the last few years who've suffered at the hands of police brutality. I mean, if we want to talk about police brutality, we can even extend it to the most recent killings that happened in Ajah. You know, the lawyer Bolanle Rahim, who was killed by an errant policeman. And a week before that, there was a young man, Mr. Buraimo, in Ajah, who was also killed by a policeman. So I think that, you know, I have mixed emotions about it. I think we did accomplish some great things in terms of forcing some state governments who agreed to put together these panels to uncover these cases, to do these investigations. But it is clear that we've not yet gotten the results that we want, because those police behaviors are still happening till today. For me, I think I've always been a part of the group of young people, or the group of people who are enlightened and progressive and care about the nation enough to want to see us do better. Listen, the EndSARS thing was not just about disbanding EndSARS. That was just the name. We were also fighting for the police, for better training for them, for better pay for them. If you looked at the 5-for-5 agenda, it was clear that it wasn't just about vilifying the entire police force. It was about young people who wanted a better nation, looking fairly and squarely at our security agencies and our police. So did we get what we set out to do? Not entirely, but I thought that it was positive, and I think now we have to follow that up. We have to keep going. I mean,
so some people feel that the 5-for-5 was not enough, and it was a mistake, you know, to even ask, I think Sheon Kuti put up a post saying it was, why are you asking for the police to be paid better? Can they ask for it themselves?
Well, you know, I think
misguided request.
Some people may listen. We're human beings, right? And everybody is subjective, or every issue is subjective. So some people may not agree that our police need to be paid better. I think they do, because you can't pay somebody 30, 40, 50K a month and then stick a rifle in his hand. That person will most likely abuse his position because people are struggling to get by.
But Sheon Kuti was saying they should go protest for themselves. They know what to do.
Well, you know, I think also you have to take into account and acknowledge the fact that they are agents of the security force. So it's probably more difficult for good police officers to say they are protesting, because in the way that you are trained and in the way that you are enlisted into the service, obedience is paramount. So I think we will be doing them a disservice in saying, let them go and protest for ourselves, because at the end of the day, we're all Nigerians. A friend of mine is a doctor. He was driving on the road one night, driving home with his wife from a karaoke session, and a policeman pulled him over 12 midnight and was trying to collect small change from him. And instead of just either getting to an argument or giving them the small change, they struck up a conversation and said, okay, it's past 12 midnight. Something has to be going on that you are here at this time, you know, sourcing for Egunje. And the policeman said, yes, sir, my wife has cancer and we can't afford the drugs. Luckily, my friend's wife is a doctor. And they got talking. They said, okay, what is the situation? What's her treatment? What pills are they prescribing? Apparently, they were even prescribing complete nonsense. So they were able to help this man. And I think we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we don't acknowledge that even the police force are in pain. Right. Now, with that being said, a lot of policemen, a good number of them, are abusing their positions, and this is just the way they go. So I try not to cast absolutes on these kinds of things, and that's why I think the 5-for-5 was important, because yes, we wanted to disband a part of the police force that had proven by and large most likely to be corrupt in most situations. Right. But we were also fighting for reform. We were fighting for higher pay. We were fighting for better training. We were fighting for better equipment.
I think when you aftermath now, let's go to the government angle and the military and the police and their role.
Well, the aftermath now, I think everything still comes back to the National Assembly. I know that we've played with and debated this issue of community policing, but I think that's something, and I know the National Assembly has considered it, and it's still something that's in process.
What about bringing those responsible to justice?
Oh, absolutely. But I think that we can't listen. Best international practices say that you have a federal level. So in the States, you have a Federal Bureau of Investigation, and they deal with the most complex crimes, the most complex investigations. But then you have state police. There's the NYPD, there's the LAPD. And I think as a nation, that's something that the next assembly, which by God's grace I'll be a part of, has to debate and find a way to pass.
So will you be pushing for prosecution of those responsible for reopening that file? Because it's almost as if it's forgotten. It's gone, it's gone with the wind.
That's a great question. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm in touch with the lawyers who are prosecuting the case for Bolanle Rahim right now.
Okay.
I'm in touch with the lawyers who are prosecuting the case for Mr. Buraimo right now. I'm in touch with the families. I'm still speaking to them.
And there are lots of them in prison.
They were just in court a couple of days ago. They just received the autopsy order, which is going to happen next week. And I think that's the job of a representative. Yes, we will go there, we'll meet with the families, we'll commiserate with them. But how do we follow that process through? Talk to the lawyers, see the case through, give them any kind of support they need. And in my private
there's several of them
capacity,
in jail. I hear one of them is seriously sick.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, we have a long list of problems, and Rome wasn't built in a day, so it's not going to change in a day.
So
but if you put people at the table who care and who are willing to do the work and be diligent enough, then we have a chance to start to right.
You're saying this is something you will pursue?
This is something I'm pursuing right now.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, let's come to that. Thank you. That's Bank EW, of course, Olubankole Wellington of the People's Democratic Party. I'll go next to our next representative, and this is candidate rather. Is Representative Ibrahim Obanikoro of the APC. Honourable, what are your thoughts on the EndSARS protests? You're a young man, so I'm sure you're really actively following everything on social media.
Thank you. EndSARS started very, citizens are always in the right to protest, and I started as a civic duty, which we were doing. I was also part of those that contributed online for, a peaceful protest until...
you contributed?
Yes,
financially.
Because I wanted, I'm a Nigerian as well.
Is that allowed? I mean, since your party is in power, wouldn't that be counted as an anti-party action?
No, before anything, I was a Nigerian, and I'm part of my community. And if my community is crying for something, I will join the community in crying for it, because that is what they want.
Okay, so you give money?
I contributed.
Okay.
Now, with the benefit of hindsight, we made some mistakes. We came out, they said there was no leader, it's going to be, nobody's going to speak for us. That's a major mistake that came with the EndSARS. And fast forward, it went beyond control of those that were behind the scenes that were organizing it.
How do you mean? How do you mean?
Those that were behind it, they know themselves.
Okay. How do you mean it went beyond control?
Obviously, it didn't end in the manner at which they wanted to. The chief security officer of the state gave us every
warning,
every level playing ground that we needed to operate. He came there, took our matter to the Asai as the presidency, and did all that as the governor of the state. Listened to what we wanted, took it to the president. We had some wins.
Even marched with them at some point.
Exactly. We had some wins until we were beginning to hold Lagos to ransom, and they had to stop.
Okay.
As the chief security officer, he called for what was what I'm looking for now.
It's for people to go home.
To go home was what I'm looking for now. Come to me. Curfew, thank you. It called for curfew.
Okay.
And
that was, I think, on the 20th of October.
Yeah, on the 20th. I think a day before. They had given the curfew that by 12 p.m.
He announced the curfew on the 20th.
On the 20th,
yeah. So people should go home.
That people
2
should
p.m.
go. No, it was extended to 2 p.m. Initially, they said 12 a.m. 12 p.m. and then it was later extended to 2 p.m. But that curfew was defied, and unfortunately for us, the Nigerian police army came, and we all went back and forth on the issue of on the shooting. We didn't shoot. Eventually, obviously, they shot. And now this is where there is a divide. Until this day, until this day, and I'll throw this at all. I've asked my cousin, who was also in the forefront of it, and I'm going to say this to everybody listening as well, and I'll say this to Olubankole Wellington. I'm still looking for a family, because I want to go and feel. I just ask them how it feels to apologize to them. And
why do you want to apologize?
I feel bad.
Why do you feel bad?
If citizens are protesting peacefully and then they lose their life, that's the ultimate price to pay.
Okay, so the narrative is the government turned the troops on them.
No, that's what I'm telling you. Yeah. That if the government had done that, if that's the case, I want to go to that family and pay my respects. That is the ultimate price to pay for democracy. And I'm telling my brother Olubankole Wellington, I would go with you to any family that lost a member, because I actually want to. Because as a member representing Eti-Osa, on that particular day I was in Abuja. My mom called me in the middle of the night 3 times, crying. The next morning, I flew to Lagos. I went to St. Nicholas. I went to Reddington, and all the hospitals just to try and see what was going on. And it was because I was moved.
Were you in shock?
I was in shock that how
could people be shocked like that?
People protesting, performing their civic duty, be victims, of people that are supposed to
protect them.
So it was a great.
Could you believe that was happening in Eti-Osa?
I didn't believe it. It was
soldiers would turn on armed civilians.
It was a great concern to me. We also took it up with the military. The Nigerian army said, "Look, we fired up."
House of Reps.
Yes, we called them. I was in that. I made sure I was in that committee. We called them. Oh, we didn't shoot any live ammunition. They shot in the air, and if at all. They had maybe when people were scrambling, that's where people got hurt. Some people maybe had panic attack. What they gave us all sort of excuse that could be given. But with the benefit of hindsight, until date, excuse me.
Sorry.
And let me also before that, all the stores, not all, but at least majority of the stores that were looted, I made sure I got the numbers of the owners of the stores. The ones I got on the phone, I spoke to. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just calling to show you my heartfelt concern. I pray with you that...
You called them?
Yes, I called. Some I sent text messages to.
You didn't call me. My store was looted.
I didn't know about it. I didn't know you had a store there. But those that I could call, I called. Those I could send text messages to, I did call. Some victims that were...
How did you get their numbers? I mean, how did you reach out to them? I sure it wasn't party people you were calling?
No, I'm representing Eti-Osa. I can get any information in Eti-Osa.
So you're sure it's not party people you were reaching out to?
I am sure I wasn't calling my party people.
Okay.
And just 2 weeks ago, a particular lady I sent a text message to, she actually walked up to me. We had a meeting during this campaign trail. She said I sent her a message during the EndSARS. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know. How are you coping now? She said, well, after EndSARS, she has grown her store now. She now has 4 more stores. 2 in Lekki here, 1 in Abuja, and 1 in Surulere. And I was happy for her. She went into telling me how it was a family generation business. But they had just 1 store.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you're willing to accompany Banky if he goes to visit family of the deceased.
If he can, one diseased.
Yeah.
I just to at least I feel like maybe it will help me sleep well. Okay. Give them a hug and say, I'm sorry this happened. I'm sorry your nation failed you.
But your principal in Lagos State, the leader of your party in Lagos State, who is the chief security officer of Lagos State, I think he said no life was lost.
Say that.
No life was lost. Am I correct, gentlemen? Yeah, governor said no life was lost.
It's not my turn to speak.
No.
So are you not maybe going against the words of the governor? Are you disagreeing? No, you're right. Are you disagreeing with him?
I am still in line with the words of my governor.
No. But you said you want to visit the deceased.
That's what I'm saying. You
believe that people die
beyond reasonable doubt, because I have the figures, but sometimes we make mistakes.
So are you saying that you doubt that people were killed?
I'm not saying I doubt. That's why I'm saying it's not a closure to me yet. If there is a family that can come out, or if Banky knows one already can take me to, we'll go and visit them together.
So as rep for Eti-Osa, you've not with all your contacts, like you said,
I'm yet to.
You were able to get the contacts of store owners. How come you weren't able to get the contact of?
That's why I'm saying if there is a family that can, sometimes record keeping in Nigeria is not at par. So if there is a family,
so you're not.
I'm also extending
you're not concluded on the fact.
I'm also extending that courtesy to Femi here. If he has anybody, I just to clear my conscience.
So you're not concluded on the fact that no one died.
No, I'm not concluded. I strongly believe
that it's
I
possible.
strongly
it's
believe that
possible.
it's possible maybe 1 or 2 casualties, but that is a massacre is where we disagree.
Okay, so if you strongly believe that there were casualties, it means that you're invariably saying His Excellency could be wrong.
I didn't say I strongly believe.
No, you just said you strongly believe.
No, I said I believe that there were no massacres, but it was if there was
you,
any.
you just said you believe that.
Maybe I missed it. Maybe
there could be one or two.
Take that out. Maybe
but
take that out. I don't believe there was
the question I'm asking is that therefore it means that you disagree with His Excellency, who says
I'm not. I'm telling you, I am in line with my governor.
No.
I don't think.
You just said you strongly believe. That
I don't think
there would
there
at least
were,
be 1 or 2 casualties.
No,
but you said that you disagree that it was a massacre.
Okay, let me rephrase. I take that back.
Oh, no, you don't need to take it back.
No, I'll take it back. I don't believe. Wait, I don't believe there was any casualty. Not to talk a massacre, but I'm not 100% perfect. We all know that record keeping in Nigeria or anywhere is.
But Honorable, I want to be sure. You said you would, if there is any casualty, you would like to accompany.
Exactly.
That you have not concluded. There's no closure.
To me,
to you.
There was no.
So if there's no closure, it means that in your mind you're saying it's possible that people died, and you would like to meet them.
I want to be proven beyond reasonable doubt.
But His Excellency is saying there was no casualty. You know, so if you say you believe there could have been, it's not the same thing.
It's the same thing. I'm telling you, there was no. I don't think.
No, it's not the same thing.
I don't think there were any casualties.
So why would you want to
be wrong?
Okay.
The governor too could be wrong.
He could be wrong. That's all I'm asking.
Sometimes,
so you said it.
Until you have to prove us beyond reasonable doubt, and that's why I still leave that, because I'm human and there's that human part in me. That's why I still leave that room. That maybe some people can still come up and actually give facts to say, and I know measures that we have put in place to see if people will come out or come up.
I think
and nobody has come up.
It's noble
and
that
now,
you've reached out to people.
Let me also.
Are you willing to give back his palliative?
His palliative. No, I've been to his house to give him palliative. That covers his palliative. Let me also land, because in the aftermath of the EndSARS, there was a lot of rebuilding that went on, especially in our police stations. I know the role that I played. I know the contributions that I put into it to make sure that these stations are back to life and operating to our people. I know what I have contributed in terms of rebuilding security in Eti-Osa, in terms of giving tools to make our police be at least operate effectively. We have done all that. I don't think anybody else on this table has done that.
You have voted for.
Nobody else is the representative.
Hold on.
You can't demand that of us.
Listen.
Seriously?
I did not contribute as a rep member. I contribute as a member of Eti-Osa.
There's no distinction.
There is distinction. I don't have a budget.
Okay.
It is my money that I spent. I didn't get money from federal government. I didn't say I facilitated anything. I just the same way that I don't go around singing to the world, I fed the world. Just like I don't do that. When we do things, we do charity for the sake of charity, not for the world to know. So I'm 110% sure that if they have done anything to help the community rebuild, I'm sure by now it would have been a chorus to everybody's ears. Right. But unfortunately, it is not. There are some key points that I want, salient points that I just want to
very
put.
Quickly.
In the interest of Eti-Osa, people that have interest of Eti-Osa, they are very easy to know. Just here, I did a simple sample. I came in, gave everybody my flyers, including Femi.
I didn't get one.
Look, no, you were not there when I did. Okay. Look at it.
All right.
Femi brought it out, took his time to go through it. Where is Banky's on? He left it on the table. I had to tell my PA to pick. No, those are people that have interest in Eti-Osa. If you truly have interest in Eti-Osa, you will pick up the pamphlet, look at it, and say, okay, let's see what this guy has done. Whether to pick a plus or minus.
Sorry.
Look at him.
Man.
He has it. He has
Jide,
it
you
here.
are so petty.
I invited
First
you.
of all,
I
Kofi,
invited you. Calm down.
Kofi.
I want to show you the interest of Eti-Osa. I invited you to a town hall meeting. No, you will. You will. I invited you to a town hall meeting. You came, spent what 5-10 minutes, not even up to 10 minutes.
so
Bam, faded.
Oh, God.
People that have interest, at
Is that
least
true?
I need to respond to
you,
Yes,
you-
go on, go
people
on.
that have interest would at least. If at worst, if you had to go, you will say,
let him
Honorable,
respond.
I have to go.
Let me-
or
let him-
organizer,
let him
unfortunately,
respond, yeah.
I have to go.
But-
Don't get me wrong. I
But
appreciated your
Femi,
presence.
What did you see on this flyer?
Oh man.
Oh no.
No, please,
No,
I need to-
hold on, guys. Femi,
Kofi, I
no,
need to-
Kofi,
This is-
let's have the conversation.
I have to come
now-
here, but Femi,
let
what
me-
did you see on
Let
the
me
flyer?
round up.
I
Let me
need
let me
to-
let me.
I need
let
to
No, we
me-
don't have all time. Your time, you have
Let
overstayed
me
your
let me
sorry.
round. Let me round.
One
Let me
sentence,
let me
one
round up.
sentence.
Let me round up.
Please, I
One
need to-
sentence.
In round up.
Yeah.
In all of this, it's about it. We're talking about our community. It is Eti-Osa. We know whatever it is that we do for Eti-Osa.
Thank you. Rep,
Okay,
thank
now,
you. But
please,
before
he talked to me
Yeah,
directly.
just
I gotta
a
respond.
second, a
It's
second.
Femi's turn. Femi should talk
Femi, what
about
did you
EndSARS.
see from this flyer?
Look,
Just
what I
quickly.
saw,
Yeah.
what I saw was that, he again, look, good work, and I've always said that I'm not going to say that. Look, I mean,
Did you read it?
of course I did. I mean, I'm a reader, so those who know me know that I read everything.
Okay.
Look, at the end of the day, again, I'm not sure I like the question because it's not about discussing what he's put in there, right? It's again, I say it's about effective representation. You can.
So there's a lot here. Actually, community outreach.
Yes, so the community things and all of that. But let's go back. Kofi,
It's like you got some empowerment project going on.
It's so
Kofi.
many, so many. I facilitated
I'll
so
I'll
many.
come to
So
your
let's-
insights.
yes, so please let
me give
Banky
Banky
answer
a
his-
chance to Banky.
Okay, please let me respond to this. Jide, please. We really can't be this petty.
It's not a petty issue now.
I gave, first of all, your pamphlet that you gave me. You realize at the town hall that I attended, there was a whole booklet which I've read, I've studied your website, I've studied your agenda, I've studied the bills that you've passed. So everything that you've given me here, I've already read. Secondly, when I was coming in here, I gave it to my campaign manager to hold for me. No, I didn't stop you. I gave it
was on the
to
table.
that was hers. It wasn't mine.
Ours was.
It was. Did you have to let me
Yeah,
talk?
please, Representative Obanikoro, allow him
I
to.
gave it to Taiwo, my
Yes,
campaign
precious.
manager. I also
Precious,
gave her
take
my
it
laptop.
off.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, please allow him
I
to
also
continue.
gave them my laptop back to hold. I also gave them other things to hold. Am I not paying attention to those things because somebody is holding it for me because we're coming in for a discussion? Secondly, I came to your town hall. You don't know what I went through outside to get inside because your town hall was a gathering of party members. So you don't know what I went through to navigate outside to get inside. I also couldn't wait to the end. In fact, I waited until you spoke. So I went through the other people that spoke before you. I don't know if you even noticed when I came in. I waited for other people to speak. I waited till you came on, heard you speak, and then gauged that, you know what, let me leave now before
Whilst it's safe.
it gets too crazy. And I left. Now, let's talk about town halls.
self-preservation is
Let's
the
talk
first
about town halls. Jide, you did your third town hall in 2022. Jide, I've done more town halls in 4 months than you have done in 4 years, and you are a representative. You have a whole business community. Have you thought of doing a virtual town hall to talk to them? You have a constituency that has 10 wards. Have you thought of doing a town hall in multiple places? You've done 3 in 4 years,
Today-
and you think that that's
today-
something to brag about?
Today alone.
Bro, come
Today
on, man.
alone,
Come
I've
on,
done
man.
4 town hall
Stop
meetings.
yes, because you're
Today alone,
campaigning.
I've done 4.
Because you're campaigning.
The town hall meeting
Because you are
referring
campaigning,
to
Oga.
has the 4
Please
town hall
calm
meeting.
down
The
and
town hall
please
you are meeting.
leave this petty behavior.
Town
You
hall
are our
meeting
representative.
with empowerment.
You are our representative.
When we do virtual
so
with
it's
less
on
than
your
you know,
website that
So-
you
so
have
he
3.
says you
You've done
don't
3
do
town halls
empowerment
in
with your
4
town hall.
years.
it's part of the empowerment. That is with
Goodness,
empowerment
Jide,
programs.
you really have to stop.
All right,
Stop
gentlemen.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
go.
not in tune with the
Let's go over to
constituency. You
Femi. Please, let's go to Femi. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's go to Femi, who is the candidate for the African Democratic Congress.
See, I put a paper down.
What are your thoughts on the whole EndSARS protest? The protests are killing, the massacres, and the aftermath.
So I live in O'Neill, literally walking distance to the epicenter of that event, and I recall exactly what happened on the night of the 20th. So because what happened is, because I live in Oniru, a number of the guys.
Did you join the protest? Were you on the streets?
Look, I've done protests in my life, right?
Yeah, but for this one, were you part of the protest?
No, I didn't.
You weren't there.
I wasn't there. I only came in maybe 2 of the nights.
Okay, so while Representative Obanikoro was in Abuja watching it, from afar.
I was also there once.
Really?
But let me tell you why I didn't. Let me tell you why I didn't go.
Okay.
Look, some of us, our voices are probably a bit more vocal on the airspace.
You believe in it?
Did I believe in it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you support it?
Absolutely.
But you weren't there.
I didn't have to be physically there.
Almost everybody who wanted to see a change.
So
went out.
listen. I'm 47, right? There are certain things that you learn as you grow up. Look, every generation gets to an inflection point where they realize what powers they have and who they are. I got to that point 20 years ago, right? And I felt that it was important for this generation, the generation that were at the forefront of the protest for their own freedoms, to have their own voice and to learn how to speak for themselves. So I don't believe my presence in the protests would have done anything for them. They could speak for their own selves. But let's go back to why we got to that point in the first place. Again, it's the failure of government. The average Nigerian has none whatsoever, no part in Nigeria. Nigeria doesn't even do anything for the average Nigerian. So you get to a point where a generation of people suddenly think that, look, we have a voice, and it was great for them to recognize that they had that voice, and that voice should be heard. But the truth is that the guys who have been in government, they don't do anything for you. They don't care about you. They only show up every 4 years to canvass the people, suppress the ones they know that are not going to vote for them, and they just repeat the cycle, rinse and repeat. It's been happening for the past 6 election cycles. And the EndSARS protest, look, who do you trust? The governor of Lagos State, or a panel of judges and independent people who came out with a report? Trust me, I don't trust Lagos State government.
So you believe there was a massacre?
The panel they set up,
but
with a chairman that they appointed.
But Jide has said, where are the bodies?
Jide is entitled to his opinion, and I do not begrudge him that. But I'm saying to you that if a panel that you set up, we didn't set up the panel, the government set it up, then you then turn around and deny what the panel that you set up said. For me, there is no credibility. The government has no credibility. The average Nigerian does not believe. Look, we're dealing with a major crisis today. My driver went to the bank yesterday and spent 3 hours queuing to get cash. He didn't get the cash, by the way. So, and that's what you have to understand, of the failure of government to actually give the average Nigerian a sense of belonging. So what is the aftermath of EndSARS? A generation of Nigerians lost hope in the country. And you know what they did? They voted with their feet. They've left.
All right.
They've left the country. They're not voting these elections. They've moved with their families. Because the Nigerian government showed them, in the way they quelled those protests, that they didn't matter in the conversation of Nigeria, and they lost interest and they've left. Look, I'm a business owner, and I know how many of my employees have left because of EndSARS, and that's who they blame, or what they blame for their reasons for giving up hope on Nigeria. So look, whilst the government can celebrate all its likes and show us, a real line that they built for 14 years, and all of that, the reality is that the average Nigerian has lost hope in the country, and the government is responsible for people losing hope in the country. So let's establish that.
All right.
And you see, the truth is that the only way we can give people a sense of belonging in the country is for them to see that the government actually cares about them. This government has shown that it doesn't care about Nigerians. You've been queuing for fuel for the past 3 months. The president, who is the minister of petroleum, hasn't been able to do anything to fix it. No promises.
He's formed the committee. He's the chairman of the committee, but the minister of state for
why did he need to form a committee? Why do you need to form a committee to just supply petrol? You don't need a committee to supply petrol. That should operate on its normal self. So today Nigerians don't have petrol to run their cars. Today they don't even have cash to pay for goods and services. So you have almost a complete breakdown of the structure of the country.
But the refineries are not repaired. In
they've
16
had
years.
8 years.
Yeah, but in 16 years the PDP couldn't
seriously,
repair it. So
they've had 8
don't they
years.
need more time?
No.
But
Seriously, listen.
Representative Obanikoro, you want to say something about this?
Kofi, they've had 8 years to fix one refinery. I'm not telling them to fix everything.
We hear that the Port Harcourt refinery will soon come on board.
I want to say this on air today. If Port Harcourt refinery works in the next 1 year, please bring me back on your radio station. I'll do a public apology to you.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, we want to allow the listeners come in. It's been a long one. We will have to allow you go very soon. But we'll take a few calls, and then we'll ask you your vision and your plan for Eti-Osa. And then we end on that note. Okay? So, 08092345913. Let's take a first call. Hello, good evening. What's your name?
Yeah, good evening, Kofi. My name is Damari.
Okay, Damari, you have 60 seconds. Please go on.
Okay, it's a whole lot to take in. First, I want to thank you for doing this, for bringing Banking W and the rest of the panelists to show this time. Kofi, God continues to bless you.
Yeah, we thank you as well.
The guy that said is an economist. Can you please explain to me why Egypt inflation is 21 point something percent with all the infrastructures they have, and Nigeria inflation is 21.7% with the infrastructures we have? Because I need to understand that. Then that aside, I want to speak to the speaker that spoke last, that said in 8 years he's not been able to fix the refinery. Was he actually following up on that refinery and the stage at which he did? Because if he's following up, he will know that as at today, the refinery revamping and rehabilitation is at about 80-something percent completion.
All right.
And there's a modular refinery still going on inside that place as well.
Thank you very much. You love it. Okay, Femi, over to you.
Yeah, so it looks like both questions are actually for me. The first question was about inflation. Look, first things first. We know for a certain that inflation numbers being bandied by Nigeria are false. There is no way that Nigeria's inflation is running at 21%. When you go and look at the basket that they're using as the parameters for inflation, real inflation in Nigeria is running well ahead of 21%. And the easiest way for you to understand how inflation works is just compare the depreciation that you've had in the currency. There's something in economics we call purchasing parity. Look, that's how currencies behave. The naira has been consistently losing value against every other currency in the world because inflation in Nigeria is much higher. So go and think about all the parameters that you can use for inflation. Your rent has not gone up by 20%. The cost of food has not gone up by 20%. The cost of transport hasn't gone up by 20%. There is absolutely nothing in Nigeria whose price has increased by only 20% in the last 1 year. Okay. So we're saying that the statistics they're using is not right. Okay. So don't compare Nigeria and Egypt. There's something wrong with our statistics.
You answer the refineries very quickly.
The refineries, look, I'm following the refineries. Again, I worked on that project and until they truncated the last process in 2021. You know, the reality is that the state of the Port Harcourt refinery, which is the refinery that is being touted to be repaired, there are two lines in Port Harcourt refinery, 150,000 barrels a day and the 60,000 barrels a day. It is clear that the 60,000 barrels a day cannot work because of the state in which it is. The 150,000 barrels a day, they've been running a project to rehabilitate that refinery. Given the technical details of how bad that refinery was, the time that the government is telling us that it will take for them to do the turnaround maintenance, it is not possible.
Renovation.
Yes, there are even lead times for the equipment that are required to fix the refinery.
Okay. All right, let's pick another call.
Hello, Kofi.
Welcome. Very quickly, you have 60 seconds. Okay, Menkajan, please go on.
Yes, I want to say good evening to your guest in the house.
Yeah, please go.
This question is to Banky W. Here is Tinapa today. If PDP has done well, here is Tinapa today. But today we are all jubilating, dancing over Lagos free trade zone. We are all happy. Happy? Then my other question, okay. This government has built railways, roads. The only thing I know PDP government did in the past were to go and lay foundation stones. I have not seen where the former president have gone to commission the roads.
Okay, so your question, please.
Even Jonathan promised that he will build that second Niger bridge. He never visited the site.
Okay, thank you. So you have a question for the PDP candidate? Yeah.
Okay, let me respond like this. The first thing I'll say is that, and I said this before, so I don't know if you were listening, I'm not in the PDP to defend everything wrong that has ever happened. I'm not in the PDP to defend the history. I'm here to redefine and reform the future. So yes, there has been pain caused by some members of the PDP, but there is no perfect organization. There is not one. Not one party, not one church, not one company, not one mosque. At the end of the day, a democracy is only as good as the people that are involved in it. But since you brought up the track record of the PDP, the phone that you are using, the whole partnership with the telecoms business was done by the Obasanjo and Atiku administration. Since you brought it up, the greatest minds that we've had in government, minds like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, minds like Adeshino from the African Development Bank, minds like Patutomi, those kinds of people were brought in by that administration.
All right.
We made leaps and bounds in our economy in that time. Was it perfect? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Did we achieve something? Yes. And the worst years in that administration are still better than the best years of this one.
There you go again.
So again, I'm not defending that history.
Okay.
But since you brought it up, let's acknowledge that there were some positives, and by God's grace, if we are given that opportunity, we will bring much more positives.
Thank you very much. We go to the next listener. Please turn off your radio set. Good evening. What's your name?
Hello, good evening.
Welcome. Name, location, and then your question.
Good evening. My name is Victor from VI.
Please go on, Victor.
Okay. Babajide, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Victor. How are you?
You're very well. But I'm a bit disappointed at the comment you made about EndSARS. You say you strongly believe that there were no massacre, but you believe there was a casualty. Then the coffee asks you change it again. But you are a young man.
What's your question? Hello. Hello. What's your question? Your question.
I just want to comment on what he said. It's annoying because I witnessed what happened.
Okay.
So it's annoying when you come out to say this type of thing because you're in a particular party, because you want to cover some things. It's annoying, for God's sake. People died. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. A representative, want to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Victor. It's not hard. It's because of people like you that I am saying, if there are indeed casualties, call me. Come to my office. Let's go and visit the family together. That is why there is no total closure. To my best of my knowledge, to all the statistics and evidence with me is what I am basing my judgment on. But if you are of a contrary opinion, that is why I said I want to meet people. Come to me. My office is here in Ikoyi, 26 Umbojibo. My website is ibocampaign.ibo.org.ng. You can reach me on Facebook. My email is ibocampaign@gmail.com. Let us sit down. Take me to these families. I actually want a total closure. Like I said, I'm human. I also feel the pain that if people are exercising their civic rights and civic duty and then they pay the ultimate price, it's unfair to any family.
All right.
To our records, to me, based on all the findings that I have done, I am yet to find. But if you, Mr. Victor, has won, please get at me. Let's go and pay condolence visit to them and give them respect.
I should that would be a good idea.
I'm more than 10% sure.
All right, we have a next listener. Yeah, very quickly, please.
This is Remy.
Okay.
From Makoka.
All right, go on.
Yeah, something surprising to me from what Obanikoro said about the EndSARS. He's not the first to say that, so it's not new. My question is this. As it is today, You guys are from Lagos. The three of you guys, come to say. As it is today in Lagos, we have a ministry which is being budgeted for LIRS, which is to take care of Lagos IGR. But as it is today, we have a company called Alphabeta doing that, getting about 10 or 20% of whatever we make in Lagos State monthly.
What's your question,
what please? What are you guys doing, or what are you guys going to do about that? As it is today, if a partner company is running that, making that money off Lagos State, while you have the ministry that should be doing that. So what are you guys going to do about that?
Okay, thank you. So he's talking about Alphabeta and the percentage commission they get.
So I think we can be clear on this. At the debate, which Governor Sanwo-Olu refused to show up on during the weekend, my governorship candidate said categorically that if that contract does exist, that he was going to ensure that it was repudiated. And I think that's what everyone should do. We should be able to run, even did the contract exist. Again, there's so much opacity when it comes to Lagos State's affairs. We're the only state, probably, well, maybe not the only one, but one of the states that never signed up to the Freedom of Information Bill. Or the Freedom of Information Act. We never domesticated it. So the truth is, we can't even know as Lagosians, we can't go to Lagos and say, provide us a copy of the contract that you're using. So we don't know whether that contract exists. Right. And we hear it in the rumors, but if it does exist, and if my party wins the elections in Lagos, we will cancel that contract.
Banky?
I think if any party other than the APC wins the elections in Lagos, we will see a lot of changes on that front. I think Pastor Femi is spot on. There's too much opacity regarding Lagos State spending, regarding Lagos State budgets, what money is spent, what it's allocated to. I think we cannot run government that is not accountable and not transparent in this day and age. It's unacceptable.
All right.
So I think, I think we all feel very strongly that Freedom of Information Act should be domesticated in Lagos, and people should be able to see what their government is spending their resources.
And you think the Alphabeta contract should be cancelled if it exists at all?
Listen, I think we even need to do an investigation on where the finances for Lagos has gone.
Okay. Eti Obanikoro.
I'm not going to join in conversations of essays because he can't verify the contract. Neither can he verify the contract. So I'm not going to join you in essays.
So if it turns out that is the case,
I'm not going to join you in essays.
Hypothetically speaking,
it is an essay. You can't hypothetically speak of such.
No. It is too much of an allegation to talk of. Do you think? I said, do you think state?
I'm not going to join.
This is a question. Do you think state governments should use private companies to collect revenue?
I'd say that one time.
Do you think state government should use private companies to collect revenue when they have the Ministry of Finance, they have the State Internal Revenue Services?
To the best of my knowledge, it is still LRS that collects Lagos State revenue. So, like I said, I'm not going to join you.
You're in the ruling party, is it
like
true?
I said, LRS is who I know collects Lagos State revenue. So is it
true that
I am not going to join in essays?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Alphabeta.
So it's not true?
Yeah, I don't.
My senior in primary school. My question so I think it's greeting you. It says my question to all of them is, how do we make the local government vibrant again? We should be more excited about local government elections than presidential governorship, but governors of pocketed state representatives. So I think one of you mentioned that, talked about local government level in response to Representative Obanikoro's point about you guys going to the local level. So do you think you all have a role to play in making local governments stronger and more vibrant? I'll start with you.
Well, it's a really short answer. The National Assembly actually recommended that local governments be given autonomy. Unfortunately, the State House of Assembly declined, so I think this goes back to our elections and saying, can you put reform-minded people in place? So yes, we are all vying for the House of Rep seat, but everything is important. The Senate is important. The State House of Assembly elections are important. Everything is important because when you put the right people there, they will have these conversations. You cannot talk about improvements in your local government until local government autonomy is on the table. Lagos State House of Assembly decided against it. You would think that they are at that table and they would they would encourage local governments to have more, but unfortunately they decided against it. So I think until we change the the representation that we have at multiple levels, we can't expect that.
All right. Representative, what do you say to that?
I thought I read that that Lagos State on the autonomy, it is in two folds. The autonomy that Lagos State declined had nothing to do with the operations of the local government. But for some reason, I can't. I read it, but I can't remember it now.
It's about joint account and all that.
No, the joint account, Lagos State didn't have issues with local governments getting their autonomy. But the one they declined is, I think, performance or something. I can't remember.
Because there's some revenues and some activities that the local government is empowered to undertake by the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Government of Nigeria. For instance, the government of the state has no business in environmental sanitation. It's the function of the local government, but in Lagos State, you have a different arrangement. So do you think that, for instance, things like that, the state government should hands off, choosing who is going to have a contract to clean, Balinde or clean Surulere, let the local governments handle it? Yeah,
I think that's what it is. With the revenue, Lagos State does not have problem with them having their autonomy. I think it is in the Department of Functions that they don't have the autonomy, that they are going to co-run some functions together.
But the Constitution is clear about some of these things.
I know that the Constitution is clear, but you also have to remember that some local governments don't have what it takes to fund themselves. So they need partnership with the state government. And that is situation. That situation is what is leading to that
it's not about settling party.
It's not about settling party. No, at all. It's about performance. Some local governments don't have the funds capacity to run.
I realize some local government areas are anyway because revenue is very important, and if they are meant to run maybe motor parks, we have Lagos State setting up a parks and garages committee. We have a parking agency is meant to collect some tolls if you want to park here, there, and everywhere.
The local
governments are the ones to do that.
So, Kofi, you know what happened in Lagos?
Local governments who have their parks, both motor parks and leisure parks. They have as well. Local governments who have the ones.
No, but the state government set up a parking.
No, Kofi, you know what has happened in Lagos? It's very simple. What has happened in Lagos again is always what I've said, and I've sung this song for years. It's about a system. It's a simple state capture. That's what has happened in Lagos. And what has happened is that the Lagos State local governments have signed a contract with Lagos State, effectively porting off their powers.
They mortgaged it
to the state. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, who are they? They're all agents.
Evidence of this?
It's not. I don't think it's hidden. It's not hidden. It's clear. Yeah, that's the reason why they have the Lagos State parks can collect revenues on behalf of the Lagos State of the local governments, and then the state government can share the revenues.
But I just told you that some parks are under. Just like you have local government.
So Jide, I don't think there's a disconnect in what we are both saying. I'm not sure there's a disconnect. What we're saying is that, look, this is where the problem is. The local governments are the closest arm of government to the people. Extremely important. If you go to every other country in the world, your counties and all of those guys, they play an extremely important role. The problem is once you've created an agency where the state government effectively has taken those powers from them, and is now again, it's almost like illegal, I'm taking them and I'm distributing back to you. Illegal? Look, well, I mean, the problem is that if the state government has passed a law that again, a pliant assembly, we all we have is just everybody just complying with whatever has been
but the Constitution is above every other law.
Nigeria has been known consistently to breach the Constitution. Even the federal government breaches this Constitution.
But he said some parks are under the control of local governments.
Well,
we know that for I think
that's not. I don't think that's disputed.
And he's also said some local government areas are not strong enough to engage in these.
What does that even mean?
Sanitation services.
What does that even mean? What does that mean? That's also another part where I disagree. Then get rid of the government. Let's remember one thing.
Get rid of the local government.
Yes, I mean the people should vote them out if they cannot fix their local government. At the end of the day, look, a federal system. Jide, please, a federal system is a very simple system of government.
The same way some states don't have enough funds to operate, but they need the federal government's intervention. It's the same way some local governments do. Badagry, for example, or Joe, for example, Amuwodofin, for example, Ifakojaye, for example, these are local governments that don't have enough income to run. That need.
It is because the people that have been voted to become local government chairman do not have the capacity to innovate. That's the biggest problem that Nigeria has.
But
gentlemen,
you will agree with me that it's all over the world, that some states just don't make as much as other states, and federal government comes. In America, you have it as well. You have some states that don't sustain themselves. But I think some of the examples that you use, that probably where I have a problem. So if you look at Badagry, for example, Badagry local government probably has the best opportunity for tourism in Nigeria. So I mean, look, let's be factual about these things.
Gentlemen, let's move on. I want you to tell us, because we're out of time, your plans if you're elected as a member of the House of Representatives for Eti-Osa Federal Constituency. I'll start with the incumbent.
No, you start with them.
No, I've been going around.
The one's trying to unseat me. I'm sorry. Start with them.
No, please. I've been going around. So Honorable, I'm in charge here. I'm in charge here. I'm the speaker of this house.
I'm the incumbent here.
Yeah. Just tell us, because you have a lot you've said already.
Start with them,
please.
Kofi, it's okay.
You want to start?
I'm happy to start.
Okay, please.
I'm happy to start. Please, look, the first thing is that Nigerians have to be educated about what the role of a representative is, and it's important so that we don't even demand from them things they're not able to do. And I think Jide has alluded to that a bit in his conversation. But there are a couple of things that you can take home. That what is the role of their representative? The first is appropriation. So you play an active role in how the budget of the federal government is determined and what projects are funded. Yes, you're one of 360 votes, but within your committee, you should have sufficient influence to be able to ensure that the projects that come through appropriation benefit your constituency. The second bit is the lawmaking part. Make laws that contribute to the growth of the country, that thinks about a 21st century country and how we should be operational. The fourth one is obviously the representation part, which is you are representing the people, or the third one, you're representing the people at the Federal House of Assembly, and your job is to obviously ensure that your constituency gets the best, whatever it is. Now, the fourth thing is the oversight, which is where specific arms of the executive, the National Assembly has oversight functions over those guys. And I think the last one is what I would describe as consent. But the consent is more at the senatorial level, which is where there are ministers or people being appointed to specific places, and you play an active role in that. Now, so for me, it's very simple. In looking at Eti-Osa and where it is today as a constituency, there are certain expectations that you would have of a constituency like Eti-Osa. Now, first is the level of federal presence that you have in Eti-Osa. Eti-Osa is a local government that has probably developed in the last maybe 20 years. As at the time I moved to Eti-Osa, I was living in Agungi. When I moved here, I was the only house within a 500-600 yard radius, and today you've seen that develop as quickly as it has. A lot of the development that has happened in Eti-Osa has been private funded. Estates building roads, building their own power systems, and all of that. Obviously, what I would be focusing on is ensuring that the level of federal presence in Eti-Osa increases dramatically. That we're seeing, more projects being allocated to Eti-Osa as a local government and as a constituency that will benefit the people. That is extremely important for us as we go forward. Secondly, it's about the kind of policies that the executive actually develop and how that impacts places like Eti-Osa. Look, in the 21st century country, or in the 21st century world, a couple of things are very important. Internet access, consistency of internet access, power, people ensuring that there is power in a constituency to be able to develop, and then having the right policies from the federal government that is focused on attracting investment to those places. So for me, that would be very key. It's about driving engagement with the federal government and saying, Eti-Osa is such an important hub for you as a country. We're probably the ones that would attract the most FDIs into Nigeria, from an intellectual point of view, from a regional integration point of view. We're extremely important, and the federal government needs to give Eti-Osa that attention. There is also something that I would do. You see, every other person who is a member of the House of Rep in Lagos, I would ensure that I engage them consistently. Lagos has to have a special status in Nigeria. Lagos is so important to the survival of this country that we should, this has been something that's been on the table for the past 24 years, since when President Obasanjo was governor, was president, that Lagos has to be given a special status that ensures that the federal government is obligated to improve the quality of infrastructure that we have in Lagos, because we have none as of today. Even federal roads have been abandoned, and the state government is the one doing it. And then the final thing that I'm going to focus on is on the young people in Eti-Osa. For the federal government to ensure that those young people in Eti-Osa, who are the brain power and the future of the country, get the right level of education that they need for them to be able to grow and compete. Do you have
any bills in mind you plan to sponsor?
My first bill is about accountability, ensuring that, that's very important for me, that ensuring that every single federal government project that has been undertaken by the federal government, that there is accountability of it. So
you look forward to being probably in Public Accounts Committee?
Definitely, I would. I'll be hoping that I'm in the Public Accounts Committee.
Let's go to Representative Obanikoro. Are you ready? Or you still?
Right, like I said, I'm the incumbent here.
You want to? All right. Since the rest are okay with that, no problem. Olubankole Wellington of the People's Democratic Party.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for having this conversation. I think for me, the choices for our people are simple. I think it's about choosing for things to remain the same, to continue the way they have been, or to try to toe a different path. I think what I represent, what I bring to the table is the opportunity for us to try something different, to try something disruptive, to try reform. I believe that the way that we get out of the mess that we're in as a nation is through innovation and reform. But until we put people who are reform-minded at the table of policy making, we'll never get there. And so when you ask what my specific plans are for Eti-Osa, I would encourage people to first go to the website, banky2023.com. You'll see my manifesto, my legislative agenda. We call it the 7 E's for Eti-Osa. There's education, there's empowering our small businesses, there's the equipping of our healthcare system. But let me focus on education, because I honestly believe that that's the bedrock of our future. What are we doing about educating our young people? If you go to the schools in Eti-Osa, you will see that they are getting degrees that will not be worth the paper that is being printed on. Our young people are not being given a chance. So how do we look at education from a standpoint of reform? How do we say, can we pursue public-private partnerships to give access to technology to the young people of Eti-Osa? How do we make Eti-Osa a tech hub? The first bill, I'm glad you asked the question about the first bill we would pass. The first bill I would pass would be to amend the Universal Basic Education Act to incentivize the performance of our states and the schools in our states so that they can have access to funding to reinvest in their infrastructure. This is something that every state and every zone and every ward in the country would benefit from, as opposed to just leaving things the way they are. We cannot afford to leave things the way they are. Another idea that I would pass that says, Kofi, as a private company or a private institution, if you fix a road that is the responsibility of the federal government or the state government to fix, you get a tax break. So how do we incentivize investing in the minds of our young people? And say, if you invest in a skill acquisition center that is providing skill acquisition at scale, that is helping our young people become entrepreneurs or at least employable, if you do that, you also get a tax break, because it is as important as investing in infrastructure. This thing has to be about reform. It has to be about understanding that we can't keep doing things the same way and expecting different results. It doesn't work. We've seen that. Now we need something different.
All right.
When I was driving here, I saw a poster on the road by my brother IBO. And he had a nice smile on his face. And he said, expect more. Honestly, my response is that we did. We did expect more. So you tried, but we expected more. And it's time for us, because we deserve more. It's time for us to try that.
All right. So indeed, that was Eti-Osa Federal Constituency, if they send you back to the National Assembly.
Thank you very much. A quick rewind to 2019. I remember when I was going around campaigning, I was telling everybody that one of the first things I would do is push for special status for Lagos State. Lagos State deserves special status. We have the waters, we have the commerce, we have the people, human strength, everything to get special status. Upon getting to the National Assembly, it's a different ball game. There are others that have tried to push special status for Lagos, and they ask you, if you give Lagos special status because of this, what happens to Cross Rivers when Cross Rivers come with their own specifics and say we need special status because of that? So you see that you meet deadlock. But maybe, just maybe, if we get Ashwaju elected as president, maybe, it will give us special status in Lagos State. Accountability, there are a lot of committees in the House of Assembly that hold federal government accountable.
House of Representatives.
Sorry, House of Representatives that hold the federal government accountable. Like I said, it's a huge institution. We have over 100 and something committees in the House. You can only be a member of so many committees, maybe 10, 11 at max. And if you are, energetic and willing like myself, you'll be in like 18, like I am in, just trying to make sure I facilitate all I can to Eti-Osa. And if you are looking at giving everybody a tax break, then where will government make its money from? If you are saying because of special strength that everybody is bringing, you're going to start giving everybody tax break.
I did not say give everybody a tax break.
You had more preaching respects now here. You are now disrupting me.
Apologies, please carry on.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, well, thank you. I went around making all sorts of promises in 2019, but when you get to National Assembly, you find out that it's no longer I matter. It becomes a we. It becomes a collective effort, and it becomes how hard you can push, how strong, how willed you are. And as a first timer, it's a bit challenging because you have to ask, you have to wait, you have to try and see how it's being done. But if you return as a ranking member, all that is gone. You hit the ground running. You plug in almost immediately. You don't have to ask. You don't have to wait. And now that you're getting 10, 30, 40, 50 slots from the National Assembly.
So who says you should not ask? Maybe is it not ask on the floor of plenary?
No, I mean ask. You have to ask how it's being done because you don't know how it's being done. You're a first timer. You're new to it. You have to ask.
But you can push your bills through.
No, I'm just saying, even if you want to push bills, you still ask, how do I push this bill? Because you don't know how to do it. You've not, it's not what they teach you in university. And like we all know, in every subject in life, what you get taught in school is not what reality is. Now, this administration, we've had about 3 years to operate. We didn't have the full 4 years to operate because
of time. What would you do?
That's where I'm going. Okay. We've had because of COVID, we've had less than 4 years to operate, and in the 4 years, I've been able to facilitate so many roads to Eti-Osa. I've facilitated schools, I've facilitated healthcare centers, I've facilitated so many solar street lights to eliminate dark spots here in Eti-Osa, and we have empowered our youth as much as giving about 1,000 laptops because we realize that the world is going digital and technical, and we have to make sure that Eti-Osa is not left behind. So I gave students, teachers, schools, police stations, resident associations.
Honorable.
I'm going there.
You're not being fair. No, the question is,
I'm the incumbent.
What
I have to.
What are you promising your people if you go back?
I have to take you to where I want to take you.
Because of time, I can't give you more time than I
Okay, well, what I'm promising my people is that I'm going to definitely give you more of that. My constituency office will continue to run. My ears will be on ground. My eyes will be on ground. When I go back, there are some bills that I moved in the last night's assembly. The bills that one has to do with IDP camps that we have in Nigeria. We need to reform our ID camps. The other has to do with discipline issues as a people. We are a bit in discipline, so the punitives for being in discipline should be a bit higher. And I've moved some motions also in the House. Motion to rehabilitate all the barracks in Eti-Osa. Motion to control the ocean menace that we are currently facing.
What came of those motions?
That's what I'm telling you. They have not seen the light of day. I want to go back there and push it to make sure that they see the light of day. That's of the renovation of barracks. They started across Nigeria, and every time I speak with the IG, he tells me, "Don't worry, we'll get to Lagos." This is where we are now. So I'm sure that is being going. I need to go back there to ensure that.
Well, we hear allegations of him selling some of the land.
We'll help Jide complete that one.
Lagos is selling off.
So I want to let I'm fighting for Eti-Osa. I have collaborated with different NGOs to facilitate one thing or the other to Eti-Osa, including free scholarship to students to go to school. So many other things that
so you continue what you started, what you did in the first.
Yes,
that's why I think back. That's why I said expect more.
And that's why I'm saying expect more what I have done. And my website too is also running ibo.org.ng. All my programs are on there. What I have done, what I plan to do, and what I intend to do. My Facebook is also there, Ibrahim Obanikoro. Instagram is there.
So basically, you're saying they should elect you again, so you go back and pass the bills.
And continue.
You couldn't pass the first time.
Yes, they are in the second stage now. I mean, they're going through the second reading now. We need to see them through. Okay. And Eti-Osa deserves not to queue any longer. We have queued in the 9th assembly. 10th assembly are not going to queue. And I want to use this opportunity as
Thank you.
to thank my people.
Thank you very much, Representative. Thank you.
And I know they will elect me again.
Femi of the ADC, Mr. Lude, you didn't give out your website, so let me be fair.
www.oladehin.net.
All right, interesting.
Please.
All right, gentlemen, we have to go. I want to thank you all for your time, and I think it was a friendly dialogue. Just a quick question here. Says, IBU, please, how many years have you represented Eti-Osa at federal level? Honorable IBU, kindly enlighten us on 5 visible things that you've done. I think you've answered this question.
Yes, I've also facilitated the transformer to them in Falomo area of Ikoyi.
Okay.
I have been in office 3 years and 7 months today.
Well, I mean, but I wish you had more time, because I mean the sanitation. The state of sanitation of Balinde is quite terrible. Just behind us here, you have in Eti-Osa, you have a prevalence of agberos, street urchins on the road. These people need help. Maybe you all can. Why are you pointing at Jide? Femi is pointing at Jide. Did he send them there? We have
party.
But I
political
think all of you should think about this. I'm just saying, I mean, you go to VI, you go to Lekki, they're everywhere.
They're part of the political structure in Lagos.
Roads, people are just loitering around, and and then of course those who harass the drivers who call this program to complain, those who harass the market women and all that. I think you all can think about it and do something about it. So I think the questions for IBU have been answered already. Someone says, Kofi, I share the challenges and constraints of doing projects and passing bills because of the current political system. Please, do any of the candidates have any strategies they can share with us that will convince us well for that? I think you've all talked about what you do. What about the menace on Freedom Way, the insecurity in Lagos Island? Any plans? Okay, I think all these things you would have to talk to people, reach out to people who matter, and collaborate with them. They don't have the direct power to clear the traffic on Freedom Way. Insecurity, they can't, but they can, I think, reach out to people. I think and take note that is important to our listeners. Thank you very much. Olusegun Ikoyi says, there is madness in Nigeria. You can't access your cash. Try to transact and you get transaction limit check not successful. Okay, he's talking about Mayfield. I don't know. These days the thing, so I will just wake up a bit of the night and just start typing about it, Mayfield. That's what we're talking about. Kulela Wal says, my question is, constituency projects are unconstitutional. So what bills are you planning to push ahead which affects the country as a whole? Your bills aren't for your constituency alone.
There are no constituency projects.
Thank you,
There are no constituency projects. We only facilitate these projects through ministries and agencies.
So which bill will you push for that affects the entire country?
What do you mean?
He's asking, what bill are you planning to push which affects the country?
What bill am I... Like I said, the bill on IDPs, that's one of the bills that I would affect the entire country.
What about IDPs?
Because IDPs, as we speak today, are nothing to write home about. They need to reform it. It needs to be reorganized. That's what the bills is all about.
All right.
And then there should be a bit punishment for those that have been, siphoning whatever it is that is supposed to go to IDPs.
Okay. Do you have a national bill?
We spoke about the bills already. I spoke about the
national bill. He wants
education.
Education.
Okay, so
the bills that we talked about in education. Yes.
So you have any bill that affects you? Want to push?
Increase accountability.
Okay. So that's a national. Kule, thank you.
Yeah, we touched on the bills.
Yes. This one says, can you remember me right on this issue of toll gate killing? He's just playing politics with his words. Who are you referring to? Okay, maybe he's talking about your your submission on the tollgate. Tell me to me, thank you very much. George from Agro Palace Way says, I'm loving this. I got a great respect for the gentleman in the studio. Thank you. Yes, indeed. I'll call in later when the lines are open. Okay, I think we couldn't get through, but we'll throw them open again. Sami Najjar says, let's give it to APC that no one died during the EndSARS. How about the palliatives that were hidden from Lagosians? How do they defend that too? APC is all about. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, Sami Najjar. The next one, it says, can you please ask Mr. Wellington if he knew any family in the Lekki massacre? I think he said you know.
We do have access to some victims of the Lekki shootings.
Who died?
I will speak with
not
Ibrahim
victims,
about
casualties. Casualties, not victims.
You've asked me to link you with them. I'll link you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. This one's, I believe, Eti-Osa has a high number of unemployed youth with a lot of energy that can easily be channeled to the productive sectors. Dear reps, you guys should please think of creating skill acquisition centers along this corridor.
We talked about that. I talked about that.
Yes, you did. On this to engage these youth. I think I've seen something about. Have you done any skill acquisition?
So many.
Okay.
So many.
You didn't talk about it.
And there is a skill acquisition center in Aja.
Okay. So you both have talked about it, but they want you to create it along the corridor.
It's in Alaguton in Aja. That's where the skill acquisition center is.
All right. He says create skill acquisition centers along this corridor to engage the youth. This is a ticking disaster waiting. We remember the impact of xenophobia and EndSARS protests. Femi from Mochi Road. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time and for your contributions. And I think you can both all shake hands before we go. But before you do that...
We've done that a few times.
Yes, but before you do that, thanks to Olubankole Wellington, candidate of the People's Democratic Party for Eti-Osa Federal Constituency, House of Reps, Representative Ibrahim Obanikoro of the APC, candidate for the Eti-Osa Federal Constituency seat, House of Reps, and we're talking about also Olufemi Oladehin of the ADC, candidate for the Eti-Osa Federal Constituency seat at the House of Representatives. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
my name is Kofi Bartels. I'll be back in a few seconds, a minute or two.
Kofi,
don't forget that the
Kofi, tell the Olus to leave me alone.
collection ends. The PVC collection ends in 3 days. That's Sunday, February 5, okay? And you can go get your PVCs even on Saturdays and Sundays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at INEX local government offices. Get your PVC, vote wisely. I want to say a special thanks to everyone who's been here. From Feromi, we have Grace, Joy, of course, David of EIE is here. Yemi of EIE, thank you. Ife is still at work. Ife, how are you doing? That's Programs Director, Lagos Talks. Okay, and everyone who has been a part of this, thank you all. There's a lot of people I've not mentioned. I'll be back on the other side, and please stay with us. The latest edition of Lagos Talks 91.3.